Deploying dandy dose of cool communication, dogged determination, and soft power, aka celebrity and influencer juice. The duo working to organize the protest that fearlessly spoke truth to power and announced that indeed enough is enough.
So in January 2010, the Future Project hosts the annual Future Awards. The keynote speaker was Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. And at the time, she made mention of the fact that the demographics of Nigeria favored young people, and that young people should basically take their position in determining what happens in Nigeria. Fast forward to February of that year, Chude Jijonwo wrote an email titled, "Where is the outrage?" And the content of the email was basically saying, when would young people use their voices so that the likes of Wole Soyinka and Tunde Bakare will not be the ones protesting on behalf of a future that they have less invested in and we have more to lose. Because at that time, Save Nigeria group had started and they'd already had a protest in Abuja, I believe. And one of the banners they had at the time actually was "Enough is enough." So the protest was organized and was set for March 16 in Abuja. And the idea was to march to the National Assembly. And there were three main things. President Yar'Adua, at that time, we weren't sure if he was dead or alive. There was fuel scarcity, and there were killings in Jos that now pales in comparison to what is happening in Nigeria now. A friend of mine, Bisola Edu, who is a current member of the board of EiE, invited me to the protest. I'd just finished my MBA, was back in Nigeria, and it sounded like fun. Going to Abuja to protest and have a good time with friends. Protest happened in Abuja March 16, was followed by a protest in Lagos on April 13, and this is all in 2010.
Shortly after the dust of the debut protest settled, the fledgling civil society group was back in the grind, prepping for the grandmother of all modern-day protests, #Occupy Nigeria.
It is not about subsidy. There can be no transformation without sacrifice. They are now willing to sacrifice anything for this nation.
Rumors around a proposed fuel price increase. We had a meeting and started strategizing about a response to that. I did some research around what the issues were and what the concerns were. We sent a letter to the then Minister of Finance, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, requesting for a meeting to have a conversation with young people around why it was proposed to remove subsidy and what the plan was from the federal government. A town hall was held, I believe, later that year as well, just talking about the issues. A clip for that has become now very popular around what the mathematics of continuing with the fuel subsidy is. Everybody woke up January 1st to the news that fuel subsidy had been removed. And because we had had the meetings and we were prepared, we could basically immediately kick into action. And we focused on two main things, really: information. So we presented the information in a way that was easy for people to access, and basically showing before subsidy, this is what the price of goods, general goods are. And once it's been removed, this is what it will become. And when Pastor Tunde and Save Nigeria started hosting the Ojota protest, we participated in that.
Time has come for the people of Nigeria to rise and say, enough, enough, enough.
And in addition to mobilizing people, we were very strong online in sharing information. So not just in Lagos, but we became a hub for people across the country who were then doing similar protests, letting us know when their protests will be, where they're meeting, where they're going, sharing pictures, sharing information, documenting, not just in Nigeria, but across the world, where Nigerians were holding similar protests. Because they were happening in Germany, Switzerland, London, New York, DC, all across the globe. Nigerians were protesting on the same issue. And that was our particular role.
Next up was the #OurNAS protest of 2013, which led to the #OpenNAS campaign.
Want the breakdown, then you will come and get the breakdown. Who did you ask? And I'm telling you today, if you want my salary, I have my pay slips and I will give it to you. There is no problem there. Hello, yeah. Okay. Hello, yeah. Hey.
Yes, so my people, Matuba Badia, so the free open NAS hotline powered by over 10,000 petition signatures. We have achieved goal 1, and a breakdown of the National Assembly's budget is now public for the first time in 7 years. This shows the power you have to change things as a citizen. The purpose of this hotline is to create a community of Nigerian citizens who want to help strengthen our democracy and improve the services that our government provides for us. We believe that our elected officials from all parties must work for citizens and for Nigeria. Now we give them the job to do now, so they must do them. Abinobiso. This hotline provides information on governance and a quiz with a chance to win a 2,000 naira recharge card every month if you answer the questions correctly. Never stop being an active citizen, because at the way be that. One love, my people.
In an age where digital and social media are the dominant channels of engaging the youth, New Media Savvy EIE has taken full advantage of new media to connect with the primary target demography.
Is a central plank for us for reaching new constituencies, for bringing new ideas and ways of working, and trying to connect government to the citizens.
This year, with the support of SACE, we did a couple of things actually. So our first session focused on active citizenship and basically just looking at how citizens engage. How can they use technology to engage, success stories, challenges, and how to overcome them.
In the past, communication was one way, specifically from government to citizens. Citizens had no opportunity to engage, had no opportunity to talk back, no opportunity to even question or decide or discuss what was happening. Now they have complete interaction.
We say that EIE leverages technology. So technology includes new media, and our audience are people primarily with access, who are literate to technology, as we like to say. New media has aided our work because new media, for the most part, is unfiltered, it's easily accessible, and it's cheaper compared to print media or radio. Over the years, what we've said very simply is that people that we have access to through new media, we say they're like a thumb. Your thumb is your only finger that can touch your other 4 fingers very easily. Your other fingers will struggle. They can touch them, but they would struggle. But your thumb can touch them very easily. So we say that people who have access to our information are like thumbs. So whatever you get online, what you can read in the newspapers, what you can find in books, considering that a significant percentage of our population is illiterate, which just means they are unable to read. Whatever you find, access information you have access to, take it as a thumb and then share it with 4 other people. And so the 4 people can be your siblings, they can be people you work with, they can be people in your neighborhood. But the idea is that if one person shares with another 4, and those 5 then share with 4 other people each, and those then share with 4 other people each, the exponential impact will be huge. And that's how we use new media to educate and share information.
EIE is the only organization that has hosted conversations on citizens, governance, and technology at all 6 editions of the Social Media Week Lagos. Guests include Omobaba Johnson, former Minister of Communication 2013 to 2015, Malam Nasir El Rufai, Kaduna State Governor 2017, and Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, INEC Chairman 2018. Up next was the New Media and Governance Conference, a conference on the interconnectivity between new media, citizens, and governance. Co-hosted in 2012 with the Yaradua Foundation, co-hosted in 2016 with the Budget and Paradigm Initiative Nigeria. EIE also organized engagements on internal party politics and selecting candidates. Right after recording another resounding success with a conversation on party politics, EIE delivered a series of electricity town hall meetings. These are interactions with citizens on how to resolve issues around estimated billing and other power problems.
Bundling of PHCN, we decided to help citizens navigate the challenges of getting power. And a big one was metering. Very simply, metering allows you to only pay for what you use. Estimated billing doesn't do that. And it's a consistent complaint that because estimated billing allows the discos to charge more, there is not an incentive to meter Nigerians. So Nigerians are struggling to get meters, people are having to pay to get meters, which should technically be free. So we're basically just doing town hall meetings in different communities and letting them know what their rights are, how to go about getting meters, how to complain, what the complaint mechanisms are. And a particularly good one is the Araromi community, which basically decided not to pay their bills until they got meters. And they complained to the Ikeja Disco. They came on our radio show. And while they were on our radio show, Ikeja Disco then reached out to them and had a meeting around adjusting their bills and metering the community. So that's a great example of citizens taking action and following through. And well, they're not a government agency in this case, but an organization responding and engaging them.
2 Ikeja Disco Town Hall meetings, Ibadan Disco Town Hall meeting, and a live town hall meeting on Channels TV with Minister of Power, Works and Housing and stakeholders were organized.
Power is produced on an ongoing and continuous basis. And therefore, whether you are an individual consumer, whether you are a government department, billing and settlement of bills are an ongoing and continuing reality of the industry.
EIE, working with partners all over Nigeria, organized the One Voice Nigeria rallies in February 2017 and February 2018. The first was a nationwide protest, while the second rally focused on voters' mobilization.
I stand with Nigeria.
One voice Nigeria.
I stand with Nigeria.
And they tell people something there. Some people they tell me on social media. Then because they will not see money spent. Say we collect money from the government way past. And they tell them I don't know Jonathan though. I don't care who Jonathan be. I don't care who Buhari be. I don't dey here because of Buhari. You understand me? And they here about the governance for this nation. Both tell ourselves the truth. Everybody for this nation I need the government of himself.
Yes, sir.
Don't be you that provide water for yourself. Don't be you that give yourself light. Now only in Nigeria now you will see where person go get 3 generators. 4 backup generators.
And we want 100,000 people, get at least 10 people each to register to vote.
If not 1,000 people come, they feel they do on sharp, register all of them, sharp.
And of course, there has been a series of election debates which are organized to help citizens select credible candidates that they want to vote for.
Your company, AfriInvest, facilitated the 30 billion water storm funding from the capital market and the $225 million from the World Bank. Can you please tell us how much as commission did your company take?
The desire of the people of Ondo State against the rule of conducting election, of course as a lawyer I will challenge it. But if the election were to be conducted freely and fairly, I will concede victory and I will congratulate whoever emerges.
This is the select part of the RSVP, that's Register, Select, Vote, Protect campaign. EIE has co-hosted 14 debates from 2011 till date. Another major milestone is the election monitoring using Revoda.
We're able to show in 2011 and 2015 the app that we have for elections, Revoda, the use of it follows Nigeria's broadband map, which simply means that the people who have access to use it are people who are connected, who have access to the internet.
Developed in 2011 and updated periodically, Revoda was recently used by volunteers in Edo State and Ondo State governorship elections, Osun West senatorial elections, and Lagos local government elections. To ensure that the message of active citizens' participation in governance is top of mind, the hashtag Office of the Citizen radio program was created and launched. It has enjoyed warm reception and is currently in 7 states.
EIE has programs on about 8 stations across the country, Gobe, Kano, Calabar, and the idea is basically taking what we're doing on social media, off social media, and bringing it offline. So 1 hour on those stations, we're a topic every week, and citizens get to call in, ask questions. So we educate and we engage with the radio programs that we have across the country.
I think it is a round of applause, and I think it deserves a better round of applause. That's 12 years of work that's being done just for the simple reason that Nigeria deserves a better Nigeria. So another round of applause for EIE Nigeria, and I would like to say that we stand up and we recognize this organization that has done far beyond what we could imagine. Thank you very much to Enough is Enough Nigeria. You know, when you think about the issues and the challenges that we have as a nation, they go far, deep, and wide. But it really is about chipping at the mountain and making sure that with time, we're able to knock it down. Now, Enough is Enough Nigeria does not only do active participatory activities in the communities. They're also concerned about the role of democracy and how it's playing out in our country. And as you've seen in the video, they have participated and organized multiple debates. Ask the possible leaders to question and to hold themselves accountable to say what it is, why are you running? What do you want to do when you get into position? What do you want to do when you get into office? So we have a brief video that's going to be explaining EiE's debate journey. Over to you, Technical.
Since 2011, EiE has hosted, co-hosted, or supported 16 candidate debates of different formats. EiE is the only civil society organization in Nigeria to have that track record.
Young people will have a chance to pose their questions directly to the candidates. These questions will be based on the topics of corruption, security, and the economy. In the second phase, some of the questions will be presented via a video format, and some questions will be taken from the audience. Finally, each candidate will have 1 minute to make closing statements. We have a live audience here at the Yaradua Center, and we have asked them to please refrain from applause so that we can have the conversation continue uninterrupted.
I'd like to say that nothing is going to change if we don't make deliberate efforts. This is the beginning. It's sweeping across the world. And of course, if we pull our forces together like we're already doing, a lot of things are going to change. Accountability starts from each of us.
And we must not stop here. This group must not stop here. If we stop here, then you'll be aborting what I think is a very important platform that is emerging and which can act as a check on the political class and then the political system.
Talking about reducing the size of government here.
Yes, we are coming to that. You are asking me a different question. You are asking me.
Through employment, you talk about bringing more people. That government should employ more youth.
We can't employ people when we can't even pay their salary.
The agricultural potentials will certainly be explored in a manner that will generate more revenue for this state, because even mere potato can even be a complete representation of our oil. In fact, it will be a replacement for oil.
We cannot be talking of generating internal revenue without respect for rule of law.
I want to say that there's so much tension people are talking about. Criminals are living everywhere. Why is it that we have it so high? Because, one, security has been politicized. It is the government's responsibility to protect life and property. If you give us the mandate by the special grace of God, one thing we must do is to provide an environment that will conducive, that will guarantee businessmen and women security to carry out their businesses.
River State, it's called, the capital is called Port Harcourt. Port. You might look at our port. Some people will blame it on the federal government, but no. If you have a state governor with a political will, who knows how to build relationships, even with people he doesn't like, then you have somebody who will revive that port. We're talking about increasing our IGR. It's so easy to move it from 6 billion to 20 billion a month. If we open that port, reduce the amount of checkpoints in the state, improve the security. Who can talk to the boys? I know the worst of the worst, and I know the best of the best. I have stopped violence before. I have a track record to prove it. I've done all of these things without being in government. I really don't think there's much of a choice here.
So when you hear people on that side talking about coming to clear the rot, perhaps because they did not live in Edo State, maybe that's why they don't understand the disaster this government has been. This is a government that has been privileged to have close to 1.4 trillion, and yet they have carried the state into a high level of indebtedness. In the past 2 years alone, they borrowed $150 million from the World Bank. Now you look at the exchange, look at the exchange rate. That money is supposed to be paid back in dollars, and they say they have an economic advisor. I believe that this government has been a disaster. I'm very proud of my record. When I was SSG, accreditation in Abu Sali University, it was 22 accredited courses. We moved it to 66. As of today, accreditation has dropped in Abu Sali University. Agriculture, Edo State was #1 in cassava. Today we are not there. Edo State was #2 in cocoa. Today we are not there. We did many housing estates.
For you to have economic growth, for you to be able to grow your economy, you have to build infrastructure. And in the last 8 years in this state, we have built almost 1,000 kilometers of roads. The road from Ekperi to Anagbete, for instance, in Edo North, has opened up over 100,000 hectares of farmland. Now, investors can access that farmland. They can drive their tractors in there and commence production. If previous governments in Edo State had built the basis, they had built roads, even 100 kilometers of roads, we will have something to build on. So for us, we would have had something to build on. So for us, economic growth is about the infrastructure you have put in place, the manpower you are training and preparing for the workplace, and the general environment you have created to attract investments into your state.
The political system in Nigeria is in a state of flux. Things change here and there. We haven't reached that stability position yet. I was the first minister of power that started the service and the maintenance.
Actually, it was during my tenure that the PDP incurred no cost on account of professional fee for litigations.
I want to set up things like Ondo State food and cocoa processing. As a state government, we're going to eliminate completely personal income tax.
We are in very bad poverty stage that people are already beginning to think that to be poor and to be in poverty is a part of life. We want to put a stem on that and stop that, so that while we keep the corruption at bay, because the corruption that causes the poverty, we keep that at bay and we address directly the issue of poverty. It's sad to say that the issue surrounding the minimum wage is fraud.
Part of the burden that is weighing down the state today is servicing of debts.
Our emphasis in Ekiti State has been on education only, on theory. I'm here to make sure we convert that knowledge that we have to wealth.
The type of education we receive has been tailored towards government job. People who are not in good health, then their productivity, of course, will be low. Joblessness has become a very great threat.
We need to provide more welfare for the teachers, for retention and motivation.
We should encourage our youth to really get more involved in agriculture by giving them incentives to be able to want to stay in farm settlement.
We have mining licenses available that need to be picked up.
Governments create jobs. I come from the school of thought that actually believes that the private sector creates jobs. What government does is to enable the environment so the private sector can drive the economy.
We've departed from where we started in terms of agricultural development. We've allowed our farmers today to suffer. In the 21st century, we are still in a primitive method of farming. And as I was saying, and you give jobs to the youth. You say, look, private investor, I create the enabling environment for you, but you must respect local content.
But too many of our people, too many Nigerians, still don't have the basic things of life. They don't have electricity, they don't have good health care, they don't have good schools, they don't have good infrastructure. The time has come to ask, as we vote in 2019, are we the children of lesser gods?
Infrastructure is simply everything that you need as the backbone
to be able to get the nation working and to get the society working right.
Corruption is the issue. If you can tackle it, foreign investments will come.
You cannot take the right decisions without the right data.
But these analog leaders don't know how to process data. And we need not only to process data, we need to secure our data and synchronize them.
The biggest asset we have is our people. How do we leverage our people and their resources and the intellect and ingenuity? What we are seeing is abandonment of governance.
I will apply the principle of Uche, the concept of knowledge, of wisdom, the principle of Uchu, the concept of hard work, and the principle of Eguchuku, morality.
There is only one person with the experience who has done it before.
I wasn't involved. I don't know what he's talking about, kidnapping. I had no business in that kidnapping.
Come on.
Now, there's a white paper that came out on the There's a white paper on the kidnapping. Why didn't they put my name in the kidnapping? What has anything to do with it? What are you talking about? I made sure you are the central bank governor. What have you done so far? You haven't done anything. You haven't done anything about it. You came from, they brought you to me, and I made sure.
Brought you?
My brother brought you. Yes.
Okay.
Come on.
When did you graduate?
1974.
1974?
Yes.
That you have senior school certificate?
Go and check.
In 1974?
Go and check it. I have a
1974?
Yes. Go and check.
You have senior school certificate in Enugu State?
Look.
It's forgery.
Go and check it. The school is there.
Bottom line is that this government has simply failed in the basic tests of fairness, equitability, and common decency. And that is why there must be change in this country.
21 million. That is the number of Nigerians who are presently unemployed. Never before in the history of our country have we had such a huge number.
When I went to Agatu in 2016, I had not seen that kind of level of human deprivation. Nothing I took to Agatu could go around these people. They were struggling for it. They did not have food. A woman gave birth in the IDP camp. Her clothes were torn in that IDP camp. That baby's umbilical cord could not be cut. That baby died. I have seen this firsthand. So to have somebody just come up and just talk, with all that laxity about security, it does hurt. It does burn me.
This government is going to run on its record. Let us be clear. 15,000 people are dead. 3.5 million people displaced, 30,000 kilometers of landmass of Nigeria lost. The landmass we lost to Boko Haram is similar to the size of Belgium. Let's be clear on that.
Right.
Now,
that's a blatant lie.
Thank you for the applause. Lots of humor, but also lots of reality. There's very little to joke about when it comes to the state of Nigeria. And someone that I know that is no nonsense and really does not take anything lightly when we're talking about Nigeria is the person who I'm going to call for the opening remarks. She's an active citizen, and she's extremely passionate about Enough is Enough's Nigeria role in making sure that we're moving democracy forward. So please help me welcome the Executive Director of Enough is Enough Nigeria, Yemi Adamolekun, as she gives the opening remarks.
Wow, thank you everyone for coming and joining us on our first symposium. I was saying that maybe we'll turn it into an annual event. But it was an interesting journey getting here. I think it was reflecting, EIE turned 10 in 2010, and we had really grand plans. We were going to launch a book, have a big event, but then COVID happened. Put those plans on hold. And so as we reflected over our 10 years and the next 10 years, I started thinking about what were the spaces where we've made huge impacts really in the Nigerian civil society space and governance space. And debates would come up a lot. And so we say with quite a lot of pride that we're the civil society organization that has hosted the most, or co-hosted the most debates of any organization in Nigeria. So that's sort of how we arrived at doing this to mark our 12th anniversary. But let me start by thanking everybody for joining us, for accepting our invitation to join us as we mark this occasion. Deep gratitude to the Honorable Minister of Works and Housing for making time out of his busy schedule to join us today, not just for his panel, but for joining us for the event. He's been a big inspiration for me in terms of the power of debates, not only because he participated, but also because he continues to believe in the power of debate. So thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for your time. And I would also like to thank our partners that have worked with us over the last 10 years on the various debates. Our journey started with Channels Television. As you saw the clip with Chimamanda Adichie, they were the platform that we used at the time. From Channels, we've also worked with TVC, and our most recent debates, Anambra Decides, was with EiE's Television. So thank you very much to Channels, to TVC, and to EiE's for giving us voice, in a sense, and allowing us to partner together to work on debates. Thank you. So to my more formal remarks, the video that you watched about the EIE journey was done in 2018 for a fundraiser that we had. Not by design, but we found out that every year leading to an election, preceding an election, we have a fundraising dinner. Our first one was in 2014, then we had one in 2018, and we're going to have another one this year, interestingly. But that video was done in 2018. We were supposed to update it for our anniversary in 2020, but we haven't. So 4 years is quite a bit. So you'll see a more updated one in 4 years. I think what's important about the video, beyond the history of EIE, is that at the core of it, the message is still the same. That what we're trying to do is get citizens to understand the power that they have to shape their lives. From our political history, military rule, where you kind of stay away from those in government, nobody wants to die or end up in jail, to our culture that, in a sense, conditions us to defer to people in authority, psychologically, and then that follows by the way that we behave and the way that we engage. And then thirdly, religion. Both Christian faith and Islam all differ quite a bit to God. Even in Nigerian parlance, we talk about it quite in the way we speak. God day, God knows, it is well, God will do it. So subconsciously, we also defer responsibility or cede responsibility to God, and therefore absolving ourselves of any need to do anything because God is in control and it is well. But what we've tried to do over the last 10 years with EIE, or 12 years now with EIE, is really amplify the concept of the office of the citizen. That as citizens, we have power. As citizens, we have an office. And that office is not just one that you occupy in terms of space, but it's one that you occupy because you understand your role in a democracy. Unfortunately, we're not taught. Democracy is not something you pick up via osmosis. You have to be taught. And unfortunately, we're not taught, so a lot of people just simply don't understand. So with our radio programs that have now extended to 33 states and the FCT under different platforms, we've tried through the Office of the Citizens to educate citizens of their role as citizens and for them to walk in it, in a sense. I remember some of the times I used to be on radio and you would tell citizens that you can call your senator, you can call your House of Rep member. And the response is always surprise. Really? Yes, really. They work for you. You can call them. So I think that really is the framing of what EIE has tried to do over the last couple of years. And then for us, the campaign that we run, RSVP, you register to vote, and then you select candidates that you can engage. But select which candidates. A good friend of mine who's also a member of EIE's board always talk about the fact that Nigerians tend to talk about what they don't want rather than what they do want. And so we don't articulate clearly what it is that we want to see, what it is that we want our leaders to do. And that's, for us, is what debates enable us to present. So you have candidates who have chosen that they want to serve or lead, and then you get an opportunity to listen to what it is that they're promising to offer. We started with debates in 2011 because we felt we didn't have space. We had approached the Nigerian Elections Debate Group following the energy we had in 2010 that we wanted debates for young people. We wanted an opportunity for young people to be involved in the process. Again, idealistic young people, America as a model, debates are a big part of the American democratic system. And Nigerian Elections Debate Group just said, yeah, it's okay, just join, don't worry, we will ask, give us a few questions, we will ask it on the platform. And we didn't feel that that spoke to the demographic relevance that young people had. And so we said, what about us? And that's what led to the What About Us debate in 2011, which will be our first debate, moderated by Chimamanda Adichie, as you saw in the video, and hosted by Ebuka. And then over the next couple of years, we then went on to host multiple debates. 2011 was significant because when we invited then aspirant, Muhammad Buhari, his response, or his team's response, was that he had a conflicting event, which was a rally. And a rally was more important or would get more votes than a debate. And he was right. I actually understood that. Because rallies do two things for candidates. It's a huge crowd, there's a lot of energy, and then secondly, it's a unidirectional conversation. You speak, everybody listens, they clap, and they go. Nobody asks questions, nobody challenges. And so what we've tried to do with debates is provide an opportunity where people can ask questions and people can challenge. And we've seen over the last 10 years how that has become more and more accepted with Nigerians, and even with candidates and their willingness to participate. One of the things we did in 2017 is we began to look at access. We had gotten criticized quite a bit that debates are elitist, that it's only in English and it's only on certain stations. So in partnership with Channels in 2017, we did our first multi-language debate. So the Anambra debate that year was aired on Channels in English, but aired on Anambra Broadcasting Service, TV, in Igbo, on radio as well in Igbo. And that was the beginning of our journey in trying to expand access to debates in Nigeria. 2019 will be our most ambitious yet, and a work that was really quite empowering that we could pull off. The People's Debates, which is the platform that we set up for presidential debates. People joke that it's the debate for the alternatives, which, fair enough, because the ones we've gotten to participate haven't been the two major parties, but it still deepens the conversation and provides access. But for that debate, we had it dubbed over at the same time in Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, and Pidgin. And that will be the first time in Nigeria's history, and extremely significant in terms of, again, access. So if it's not only people who understand and can speak English that have access to the debates, it allows people to engage more with the issues. And then secondly, radio. We partner with the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria to also simulcast it on radio across all their stations in Nigeria. I think one station had it in Yoruba, one in Igbo, and I think BBC Hausa, if I'm not mistaken, had it in Hausa. So I say all that to say that over the last 12 years as well, we've expanded in our approach to access, so that not only where people engage the content, but also how they engage the content so they can understand the issues. And those debates were done in partnership with TVC News. And then lastly, beyond presidential debates and governorship debates, we've also recognized that debates are not just about the candidates, but also about citizens or members of political parties who want to share why they particularly support a political party. And we saw a clip from the Rubbing Minds Youth Debate in 2015 that we participated in that had, interestingly, Ishmael Ahmed, who went on to become the APC youth leader. His tenure just ended. And Akin Oyebode, who went on to serve in the Lagos state government and now is a commissioner in Ekiti State, an APC state. Again, those debates, I know without a shadow of doubt, brought them some level of limelight and got them noticed by their party because they defended their parties quite well. So, as we go ahead in the next decade, we're looking forward to continuing this journey of allowing citizens to understand that debates are not just a good to have. They technically really should be a must-have, so that candidates who are coming to serve understand that the ideas that they have, the ideas that they bring to the table, must be ideas that they can defend, must be ideas that when put in let's say, conversation, I don't want to say conflict, in conversation with others from other parties, they can stand and explain why they believe this is the way for Nigeria to go. We look forward to hosting more debates with different partners across different platforms. And I really, really hope that because we haven't had, let's think about it, since the 1993 election, where Moshood Abiola debated, we haven't had any presidential debates where the two leading candidates participated. And that's something to think about. So as we go into 2023, it will be a challenge to both leading parties and other parties that Nigerians do deserve the opportunity to listen to those who want to lead us for the next 4 years, be able to articulate clearly what they want to do and why they want to do it. And not just at the presidential level. We have 28 governorship elections as well. And if there's time and space and people want to, why not subject a few senators and a few House of Rep members to a conversation as well? Thank you very much for joining us, and look forward to enriching conversation this afternoon with the two panels that we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yemi. So we are going to be going to our next panel, and it's a media panel. Now, we know how important the media is when it comes to elections, and also, of course, keeping our country abreast on what is happening in the nation. And I would say that I'm part of the media, so I understand the challenges, I understand the difficulties, and I also understand the opportunities as well. We've seen the role that media has played in elections across the world. We saw the significant role that the media played in the election with Hillary versus Donald Trump, of course, and how Senator Clinton was portrayed and how that really affected her ability to be able to win that election. We've also seen the role that the election played in our own country, and rather the media played in our own country, and whether or not they're accurately reporting on what is happening on the ground. And we saw how much the media impacted in a positive way for our current president. And I remember actually interviewing him during one of the election rounds, and you know, the ability and the access to be able to interview our president gave a different, you know, view of the potential, and this was in 2015. So the real question now is, what role is the media going to play going forward with the next election? And is the media going to be able to do what they need to do to ensure that we are moving our democracy forward? Now, this panel is going to have a host of veteran media personalities, and we also will be giving you the opportunity to ask questions afterwards. So please go ahead and prepare that. Now, I'd like to introduce our moderator for the panel, who is a veteran journalist, and he's someone that I think none of us are unaware of, and he's going to be moderating and taking us through this process. So I would first like to call on our moderator, Mr. Olusegun Adeniyi, to come to the stage. You can give him a round of applause as he comes. I always say, do unto others as you'd like others to do unto you. So you can give him a nice round of applause. Exactly. It is not an easy feat to be a journalist in this country. I'd also like to call on someone who I'm a huge admirer of, and she, you know, we see her on our TVs every evening. She's looking absolutely lovely. I'd like to call on Miss Ngozi Alebu to the stage. And we also have some panelists who will be joining us virtually. So, you know, just in case you guys are wondering where the rest of everyone else is, they'll be joining us virtually. And I'd like to also call on the last panelist who is here with us, and a veteran journalist. I would like to call on Mr. Imoni Amarere to the stage, please. Our moderator is aware of the amount of time that's available, but if you do see me standing up here, it means that time is running short. So please excuse me. Over to you, moderator. You can use this one.
Yeah, debates and interviews of candidates are ideally staged so that voters can know them and their platforms better. It is hoped that this can aid voters in making an informed decision on election day. But if there is one major factor that can explain the decline in the use of this traditional platform, it is centered on the erosion of the ability to influence voters and determine the outcome of elections, especially in a society like ours. So I begin from you, because how relevant actually is this debate that we have had in Nigeria since not actually it started in 2006, who I remember, because I remember in Lagos election. That was right. Before 1999. 1999. I'm thinking about effective. So since 1993, how effective are these debates in the choice that voters are making?
Wow, that's a $1 billion question. Well, let me start by saying good morning, everyone. Good morning, Honorable Minister for Works and Housing, Babatunde Raji Fashola. It's been, of course, I've had the opportunity of interviewing you twice. The number of times that I've approached you for an interview, that in itself says a lot, that you have the sense of responsibility and accountability to people. Back to your question, Mr. Adeni. I wish I could say yes, that these debates really have been relevant. Because looking back down the line, every president that has emerged, if I'm not exaggerating, I stand to be corrected, has never really attended any debates. All the ones that have, become president from 1999. Olusegun Obasanjo did not attend any debates. I'm not too sure Goodluck Jonathan did. Yeah, there was one particular one he attended, But to a very large extent, none of our presidential or presidents have attended, any debates. That in itself says a lot. But then there's a growing argument for debates to be not only made compulsory, but to be actually institutionalized, backed by law, that it must be made compulsory at every level, whether you're talking about local, state, or national level, that anyone who wants to apply for a job, because that's what they are, they're applicants for a job. And the debate is where you tell the people exactly what you have to offer. Not just what you have to offer, but how you're going to go about, doing whatever it is that you say your objectives are. Because the question of how seems to be what is missing in all the debates. I mean, we just watched the 12 years of EiE, and none of those candidates said anything about how they were going to, fix the health sector, housing, or whatever. One thread that runs through all of their contributions has been, I will do this, I will do that, I'm going to do this. But how? That how seems to be what is missing. And on the issue of whether they're relevant, I'm sorry, they haven't been so far. Hopefully, maybe going forward, they will be. But for now, I'm not too sure.
Thank you, Ingos. We will come back. Now, with a multiplicity of candidates, how do you select those to debate without appearing discriminating? I mean, you have experience in debate and this. How do you select those people that will debate in a situation where you have, especially since most of the debates are being at the state level, if you have 30 parties, how do you select those to debate?
Thank you very much. I plead to stand on existing protocols and to say that I have had the privilege of participating in election debates, in fact anchoring election debates in Nigeria since 2007 effectively. I worked in the background for some years before that. And to say that what we have had in the past is a situation where we have never had the two or three major presidential candidates stand on the same rostrum, on the same stage to debate. At a time when President Olusegun Obasanjo, or candidate Obasanjo as he then was, agreed to participate in the debates, his opponent would decline, and vice versa. That has always been the situation. When President Buhari agreed to attend a debate, that was in 2008, at the ECOWAS Secretariat, his opponent declined to debate. And the same goes for what happens at the state level. Now back to your question, what we have done at the level of the Nigeria Election Debates Group each time there were presidential governorship debates is to conduct a poll. we engage a pollster and conduct a poll, and the outcome of the poll actually determines who comes on the debate. Because in situations where you have up to 15 presidential candidates, 12 or 15 vice presidential candidates, 12 or 15 governorship candidates at state level, you cannot have all of them on one stage. In fact, in 2011, I remember the debate that we had at the International Conference Center. We had to split the debate into two sessions, two different sessions. We had an afternoon session and we had an evening session. And what did we do? We categorized the candidates on the basis of their political parties in alphabetical order. That way we were able to have, I think we had 12 presidential candidates who agreed to participate. So we had 6 in the afternoon session, 6 in the evening session. That was what we did in alphabetical order, because that is one way for the political parties to say you are mismatching the candidates when you pair them for the debates. So just follow the alphabetical order of the political parties and not of the candidates, of the parties they represent. But other than that, the best thing to do is to do a poll and let the electorate or the people decide who should be on that debate. But even after that, you still see a situation where presidential candidates will decline. Like in 2019, you recall in 2019 the debate we had at the Hilton, Transcorp Hilton. At the last minute, the two major presidential candidates, the APC and the PDP, declined to participate. Even though the PDP candidate was already in Transcorp, was already at the venue. The moment he learned that President Buhari was not coming, he refused to participate. Right. So it was only the vice presidential debate that you had the two major candidates, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo and Peter Obi, participate actively.
No, this now brings me to the question: how do we get the parties to subscribe to the idea of debate? I mean, the major parties. How do we ensure that they send their candidates? Yeah, how do we institutionalize the idea of debate such that the major parties will subscribe to having their candidates debate their opponents before the election? And we don't have a situation where most of the candidates that are debating are no-pass. Because you can even get no-pass by this idea of polling. I mean, they have their people on the social media, they win the polls, and you know that when the election comes, they are not there. So how do we get the parties, the real parties, with parties that have members in the National Assembly, who have governors and all that? How do we get them to subscribe to the idea of debate before elections?
Well, one of the biggest challenges, I mean, with the lawmakers, we saw what happened with the electoral law and how, to a very large extent, it was an expression or reflection of, what the lawmakers wanted for themselves from, to a very large extent. I don't want to scandalize our lawmakers. Now, the thing is, for the political parties, the fundamental question for them would be, do they really want to put their best foot forward? If that's the case, then within the parties themselves, they would want to explore and ensure that all the democratic processes that you need internally are, exhausted, so that the best man or best woman comes forward. That's the first stage. And then secondly, once they get that right, the parties will not, they will not be afraid to put whoever has emerged, forward. And then they will see that the debates are a platform, that they can actually use to sell whatever ideals or ideas that not just the individual, but the party itself, stands for. Unfortunately, we're back to where the parties are not necessarily on the driver's seat of policies, that they want to come up with. It's usually the deep pockets. So whoever has the deepest pocket most likely is the one that will emerge. So how can we get it back to where the party is on the driver's seat? Like we used to have in the days of UPN, and all the rest of them, where the policies that Jack Conde, for example, were actually driven by the party. They were party-centric. So if the party is not in the driver's seat, chances are that you will not get the right, the right person to emerge. But can the parties ensure that they have that democratic process internally? If the parties are, in support of it, the chances are that the National Assembly toe the line and say, look, thus far we'll go. Going forward, we want the very best man to emerge. Right? Yeah. So you have both the political parties, the National Assembly, society itself saying, look, this is the barest minimum. This is the irreducible, standard that we want. And anything below that, we will not stand for. If we're able to get it right at that level, then we can begin to talk about institutionalizing, the debate process.
Before you respond, can the process involve INEC in such a way that there will be criteria of how many seats a party must have won before it can qualify for a debate? Because I don't enjoy this kind of debate where that the people that are debating are not people that are likely to get the votes on the election day. So how do we, can the process involve INEC in the selection of candidates to debate?
Tiago, the process can involve INEC, and I must tell you that we have involved INEC in the past. In fact, as we speak, there has been a bill at the National Assembly for well over 10 years, which seeks to institutionalize debates, which was supposed to make debates mandatory and compulsory for political parties and for candidates. That bill was sponsored by the broadcasting organizations of Nigeria, under which the Nigerian Elections Debate Group operates, and supported by the Independent National Electoral Commission. But of course, as has become customary in Nigeria, what does not suit the lawmakers in Nigeria, what is not in their personal and political interests, they will do everything to undermine. That was what has happened. And one of the reasons why it's become a bit difficult to get candidates and their political parties to subscribe to debates is the fact that the candidates, from experience, the candidates themselves do not even know what their political parties stand for. They don't know the programs of their political parties. They don't know the manifestos of their political parties. They do not know what the constitutions of their political parties say. So that is why you see that governors, candidates get to power as governors, and they begin to implement personal agenda rather than party agenda. Like she said, in the Second Republic, you could not go outside the manifesto of the UPN if you were a UPN governor. You could not go outside of the MPN manifesto if you were an MPN governor, or a PROP governor, or a GMPP governor, or an MPP governor, as the parties were at that time. But these days, what do you have? Tell me, anybody here can tell me, what does the PDP manifesto say? What does the APC manifesto say? Is there any of the governors of these parties that is implementing the manifestos, the programs of their political parties? Because they don't even know it. They don't make reference to it at all. In 2015, I was privileged to conduct debates for the CDD. and we brought in party officials to come and speak. Not the candidates now. These were what we call town hall meetings organized by the CDD, and it was meant to educate Nigerians. Now, by the way, debates are media events. They are media events because the candidates and the political parties have an opportunity to reach millions of people on television and on radio all at the same time. Much more than you would benefit as a candidate if you went to address a rally, say, in Lagos, in Kano, Kaduna, or in Akure. But with a 2-hour debate, you could reach millions of people. But these people will not come for these debates because they don't even understand what is embedded in their party manifestos. And they are afraid of being questioned. They are afraid of committing themselves on record for people to remember and recall that in 2015 or in 2019, you said this and you said that, and you are not doing what you said.
Yeah, but another thing about debates is debates are actually for the undecided. So how many voters in Nigeria are undecided before elections? Because people decide for several reasons. Reasons of ethnicity, religion, and all that. So you are targeting a small core of voters. The people who have not decided who they will vote for on the basis of other considerations. So
if you did some sampling before an election, you will discover that the undecided are in fact more than the decided.
Even within Nigerian environment?
Yes.
Okay.
They are the undecided. So very many voters don't decide who they want to vote for until probably a few days to the election. Very many. Only card-carrying members of political parties, you will say, are decided voters. And even then, even those decided voters, those decided party members can also swing their votes on election day based on what they hear and see through debates.
Okay,
to that, I mean, it was obvious Ekwesili that talked about the weaponization of poverty. There is also the weaponization of ignorance. I mean, the population of where you have literacy level is at the lower 60s, about 62% in Nigeria. I mean, compare that to Ghana, where it's about 77%. The global average, literacy average, is about 85%, which means Nigeria is not doing well at all. Now, to even talk about deciding or not deciding, where is the mind, as in, has the mind been so sharpened by education to start with, in a way that enables people to even question whether, oh, this person that wants to emerge as a local government chairman or senator or House of Reps member or governor or president, do they have what it takes to deliver on the deliverables? Can the people, are the people even equipped to ask such questions in the first place, to now get to the point where, okay, I'm undecided, you know, should I vote for Babatunde Raji Fashola or should I vote for whoever? People must be equipped to start with, and it starts from the education sector. It starts from educating the populace. The more educated the populace is, the more, it is, I mean, the easier it is for them to actually be able to decide or choose not to decide until, the right candidates who, emerges maybe through the, the debate platforms. And then they're able to say, okay, I didn't think that much about this person, but he seems to have performed above, what I expected. Or they performed below what I actually expected, or they lived up to, expectation. So it starts from educating the populace, and that's maybe where the media comes in. Instead of just report, basically what we've been doing to a very large extent. This is not a self-indictment. To a very large extent, the media has not played the role of that agenda-setting role. That's very vital. We've not really been able to do that. We've not been able to interrogate this, the people who come up and, present themselves for elections. We've not been able to, go back to Babatunde Fashola, for example, and say, okay, let's go back to when he was governor. How did he perform in the 8 years as governor of the most populous state in Nigeria, Lagos State? Did he perform, above average? Did he do what we expected him to do as far as water is concerned, health, education, and all of those things? It's the job of the media to do and put it before the people so that the people themselves can decide. I think that's...
Yeah, talking again about debates, I mean, globally, the value of debate is declining in the sense, value of television and radio debate is declining in the sense that there are other platforms. Candidates are going directly to the voters. YouTube, TikTok, even using influencers. So how do you think we can enhance, which has not really been deepened in our country, given all these platforms? How do you think we can get people to engage more in debates? Because I still believe in the value of debate. Like you said, we have never had a situation where the leading presidential candidates have really, because the value of debate is that we will not only test them in terms of ideas, we will test them too in terms of temperament. I mean, people have lost the election on the basis of just looking at their wristwatch because they feel bored. Oh, you are bored. So how do we, I just want us to engage how we can enhance this process of debate, especially at the presidential level. What can we do differently to make both the candidates and the citizens aware that this thing is actually very important?
I'll begin by referring to what she said earlier on. And this is a process that has started. Yeah. We started it some years back. And that is by getting to the people at the grassroots. Yeah. Not every Nigerian speaks the English language, the medium through which debates are conducted. Yeah. And so, for instance, when in 2016 or so, we had the Ondo State governorship debates, some of the candidates actually brought up that idea, and we bought it, which was that they wanted to speak in their local language. So we had to get interpreters. We allowed them to speak in their local language and get interpreters for English transmission. That is one way of getting to the people. It is that we must get to them in the language they understand, not in the highfalutin English language that we conduct these debates. Now, you also made reference to what is happening in the Western world, where candidates and political parties are getting directly to the people. The difference between those societies and ours is the fact that we have failed to reckon with the illiterate population in our country. There's so much noise. I pardon me to use that word. There's so much noise about the influence of the social media. But if you do a critical analysis of the extent to which the social media goes today, you will discover it is 90% in the urban centers. How many of our people in the rural areas engage with social media? How many of them watch YouTube? How many of them have access to streaming of programs and debates?
The importance of radio,
boils down to the importance of radio, especially. Radio is very critical, and in the languages that they understand.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, we just talked about the illiteracy level. And come to think of it, is the so-called illiterates that actually go out to vote on election day. Yeah. So they really should be the target. Whatever needs to be done, whether it's radio, TV, social media, they really need to be factored in seriously.
Yeah, as a parting shot, I'll tell this story, which I shared with Yemi. I mean, I never really considered debates important until 2007. I was the editor of This Day in 2006 when AD was, the media was more or less in bed with AD. I mean, that was the situation. So we were interested in who was going to be the AD candidate in Lagos. So when we heard that a certain Baba Tunde Fashola was going to be just who is Fashola? We never, I mean, he wasn't, as chief of staff, he was different from his predecessor. His predecessor was a political, but as chief of staff, he was just a technical man doing his job. But the first channels debate, he floored everybody. By the second debate, I mean, so it was from Lagos I learned the value of debate. I mean, it was the debate that brought out Fashola in 2007 in Lagos.
All right.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. I love it. Before we round up, we are going to allow members of the audience, we have 2 questions. So the first 2 hands will be given the opportunity to ask our panelists questions. We have 1 question over there. Hostess, if you can please go over there. And the second hand, please. So there's not going to be another question. All right, so just that 1 question.
My name is Hamisu from Hamisu Educational. My question is simple. High level of illiteracy that is keep on pumping in this debate or in this just little presentation. But if we look at far back 1979 election, that's the first political election, first election that brought political parties into offices. Most of the people that they are voting, are they illiterates or they are literate? I want you to define the illiteracy of the voter. Is it misinformation, or is it lack of reading, or is it lack of reading and writing? Let us be sincere to ourselves. An average villagers in the far north, call it the tropical northern axis, understood clearly about the Hausa BBC for the past 40 years. And it's a medium that they use to propagate a lot of candidacy. What is the role of these media houses that we have now? To go down the lane into the typical African villagers so that they should understand that they are not illiterate politically. Thank you.
Yeah, I think your question is clear.
It's quite clear.
I mean, sometimes we exaggerate this number of illiteracy. People are not really illiterate. I mean, because they are sometimes they are more informed than some of us.
I think that you, in a way, answered the question that you asked, which goes back to what I said before, that the medium of communication is very key, is important. You made reference to northern Nigeria, where even in the most remote villages, you will see a northerner with a transistor radio, and he's listening to either the BBC or VOA or Radio Deutsche Welle. And he or she gets his political education through that medium. Now, political education is very different from book education. Let me put it that way. It's different from book education. You and I may have book education, but we may not be politically educated. And it is very correct to say that most of us who live in the urban areas are very uninformed politically. Whereas our parents back home in the villages are better informed politically than we are. You go back to the villages now and you see an uncle, an auntie tell you something about politics in that area that you have never heard of, that you don't know of. So it goes back to what I said earlier on. Let us domesticate political education. Take it to the grassroots. Take it to our people. Educate them. Let them understand what is happening and help them in that process to make the right choices. Informed choices. That's all debates are about. Helping the people to make informed choices.
Any other questions? See, I'm being nice. I'm giving you last chance. All right. Thank you very much to our panelists. A round of applause, please, for them. And just to reiterate, as they leave the stage, I'm going to read out their bios because because I want you guys to understand how important it is to have their voices in this conversation. Thank you very much, panelists. You can leave the stage. Thank you. But before you leave, please gather for a picture. All right. So, yes, I was going to say Yemi should join as well. So our first panelist was Mr. Olusegun, our moderator rather, Olusegun Adeniyi, and he's a journalist, writer, and former presidential spokesman. Mr. Adeniyi is a fellow of the Nigerian Academy of Letters, who has delivered speeches and lectures in several countries. He also is currently the chairman of the editorial board of This Day newspapers, where he writes a weekly column, The Verdict. Our next panelist was also Ms. Ngozi Alebu, and she has a national profile that has risen considerably in the last years. She works on Arise News, Newsnight. Before then, she was known as a prolific TV anchor and moderator of the 2019 presidential debates on TVC. Her career has spanned 25 years. She also has an absolutely lovely voice and is a mother and grandmother as well. You guys did not clap for Mr. Adeniyi. Why? Okay, let me go. He also has 3 children. Oh, yeah, clap for him. What kind of gender bias is that one? I'm standing up for everyone. All right. And of course, our last panelist, who everyone knows, Mr. Imoni Amarere is the executive director, Dar Media Academy. He's a member of Dar Media Communications editorial board, and he has produced, anchored People, Politics, and Power on AIT. He has a list of former accolades: the former executive director, News Dar Communications, former managing director, Dar News Services, and he has contributed and written numerous books talking about the role and state of politics in Nigeria. Another round of applause, please, for our panelists. So now you understand how important it is to have their voices here and contribute to this question of how do we ensure that we hold our leaders accountable. Now, I'm really pleased to introduce our keynote speaker, who's someone who is not a novice when it comes to organizing debates. And she's taken time to join us all the way from the US, and it will be virtually. Our keynote speaker is Janet Brown. Janet Brown is the executive director of the Commission on Presidential Debates in America, a position that she's held since the organization was established in 1987. The CPD is a nonpartisan, non-profit corporation that sponsors and produces televised presidential debates in America. She's directed the organization over 33 electoral debates and also vice presidential debates. Ms. Brown brings expertise in all aspects of holding debates, including establishing a debate organization, selecting debate venues, developing formats, choosing moderators, partnering with media networks, and of course, public relations and fundraising. She provides technical support to debate groups in over 40 different countries. Prior to joining the CPD, Ms. Brown served in the appointed positions at the White House and the Office of Management and Budget. She also served on staffs of the Honorable John C. Danforth in the U.S. Senate and Ambassador Elliot L. Richardson at the U.S. Department of State. Ms. Brown has a bachelor's degree from Williams College. She's been awarded the Williams College Bicentennial Medal and an honorary Doctor of Letters at University of San Diego. She also has been appointed and won the 2001 Public Administrator of the Year by the Marsh Institute for Government and Public Service at Shadanoa University. She currently serves on the boards of Williams College and also works in a nonprofit research organization specializing in the workplace literacy and economic development. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our keynote speaker, Ms. Janet Brown.
And to all of you, honor to be among your group on this important occasion. I wish I could be there in person, but this is one of the many reasons to give thanks for technology, as many times as we all find it something that is confusing and irritating as opposed to an assist. It's a true honor to be with you, and congratulations to EIE on their 12th anniversary. Yemi, thank you for being part of our Debates International work, and kudos to everyone who has contributed to EiE's work and who is attending this very important anniversary forum. Yemi had said that the objective of your meeting is to try to understand how debates help strengthen and promote democracy. That is, of course, the only reason to invest this enormous amount of effort in having them. I'm so pleased that I was able to hear the previous panel, because everything that was said is spot on in terms of why they matter and what we all have to do to make them matter and to make them useful to the citizens of any country. I will never think of the initials RSVP the same way again after reading what they mean in rice stew very plenty, which I love, and then and to be honest, thinking about how much my mother and my grandmother would have loved that, because that was the whole point of any invitation. But when you think about all of those words, the way EiE is using them, they are active verbs. The S is for select. And that we are all doing when we try to learn about candidates in debates and throughout. But again, select is active. And what we believe at the Commission on Presidential Debates, and I would urge all of us to think about when we try to put debates together that will educate the citizens, is that unlike anything else that happens in an election process, the debates belong to the public. In this country, you will see conventions, paid advertisements, rallies, speeches. All of those can be produced and carefully thought through by the candidates and their campaigns, their staffs. Debates are the single event where the candidates appear in the same exact setting, a neutral setting, answering the same questions, which in our case are known only to the moderator beforehand, not to the candidates, not to their staffs, not to the Commission on Presidential Debates. They are having a serious discussion that hopefully will reveal new and better information to the public, because the public owns the debates. This is how the public needs to think about these forums. There's a very interesting debate in the United States, along with other places, which is, should debates be mandated by law, so that there is absolutely no question about whether the candidates participate. In this country, there is no law that requires candidates to debate, regardless of whether they are taking public funding or they appear on a certain number of state ballots. The debates are voluntary. There is no law that says that a candidate must debate. But as many of you know, we now have a history going back to 1976 of presidential candidates debating, including those who were sitting presidents and who were running for re-election. That is a remarkable history and tradition. The reason for that is only one factor, and that is that the public in this country expects our candidates to debate. And if they don't, if they look as though they are going to decline, or they are going to try to reduce the number of debates, or add rules that will make the debates less educational in terms of their formats, there is an outcry from the public saying, excuse me, candidates, what do you have to do that is more important than addressing the citizens of this country? Why is that not a priority for you? We, generally speaking, have 3 90-minute debates for presidential candidates and one 90-minute debate for the vice presidential candidate. That means you are asking the candidates to give 4 times 90, that number of minutes, to speaking to the public that they are asking to govern. That doesn't really seem like such a big thing to do and such a big amount of time to take away from your campaign, especially when campaigns go on as long as they do in the United States. So the way that we think about these, and I think it is very natural given what EIE has defined its role as being, is that the public owns these forums. The public is the one selecting a candidate that they will choose to vote for and govern them. There are many ways that these debates matter to the democracy. Some of them were touched on by the panel. As I mentioned earlier, this is the only time that the candidates are in the same setting. What does that mean? It means that you learn both about their objective positions on the salient issues that are facing the country, but you also learn about their demeanor and their temperament. You watch them interacting with each other. You watch them interacting with the moderator or several moderators in town meeting where citizens are asking the questions. You watch them interacting with citizens, which, as you all know, is very different. It's a very different dynamic than when candidates are interacting with a professional journalist who may be moderating a debate. People take away enormous amounts of information from those different factors. Some of them you can quantify, some of them are very personal, but all of them cut to the question, as was mentioned in the earlier panel, is this someone that you believe is going to fill the job competently, thoughtfully, compassionately? This is a job interview. The second is that in the best of circumstances, there is a handshake or an equivalent sign of civil greeting, candidate to candidate or among candidates when the debate starts and finishes. This is a symbol of civility and seriousness. It's also a symbol of respect for citizens and for the country and for the system of government that this country has chosen. It's extremely important. You will not see that at any other time during the campaign. The third, which is extremely important to us, because our country has gotten out of this habit badly, the debates reinforce the importance and the value of listening to the candidates, of listening to positions that may not be the same as the ones that you hold, of trying to reconcile the differences between and among different candidates, and of trying to understand that the ideal debate will give information to viewers and listeners that they didn't have before, but they can only gain that information if they listen and pay attention. I'm glad that the issue of social media was raised earlier. I'm also glad that the word noise happened to be used, because we all should take advantage of the fact that during a debate, we have the opportunity to listen directly to candidates, not what someone else is representing about their beliefs. This is not coming from a news anchor. This is not coming from a pundit or a columnist. And also, this is not coming from a social media string of comments about the candidates or the debate. As I say to college students in our country, we are all taught from a young age to think for ourselves. Well, debates allow us the chance to do that at the highest level of political decision making. Do you really want to listen to a social media based conversation that's going on during a debate or immediately thereafter that may actually cue off of very subjective, irrelevant things? Whether someone liked the tie that someone wore, whether they thought that their expression was appropriate. The debates are the opportunity to focus on big issues and to come away from the event thinking about what do those issues mean to an individual voter? How will they affect our lives. What difference will it make if we vote for one party, one candidate versus another? Finally, any opportunity to learn about candidates, about issues, is one that we should treasure. To pick up on the last line of the previous panel, this is about, for each of us as voters, as citizens, making informed choices. The only way we can do that is with information. Debates ideally should be structured in a format that focuses the time and all of the substantive conversation on the candidates, on the participants. That is the reason over the years why we have gotten away from a panel of journalists asking questions and now have a single moderator in charge of the debates. Yes, for those of you in this group who have moderated debates and who are journalists involved in debates, that is a big lift. It is a huge responsibility to go out on our stages for 90 minutes with no commercial breaks and conduct a conversation between two or more people who are in the job interview of their lives. On the other hand, this is about the candidates. This is not about others. This is a time where there are no staff, there are no props, there are no pre-produced segments that can reduce the focus on the candidates. This is about focusing all of the time on them so that the maximum value of the conversation and the information revealed will, at the end of the debate, belong to the citizens. That is what they take away. That is what they can think on. That is what they can discuss with their neighbors. That is what they will act on when they go to the polling places. I agree wholeheartedly that our job as debate sponsors is to take the debates to people where they are, in language that they can understand. And not just language, but in vocabulary they can understand. When I was speaking to a bunch of high school students here in the United States, in the state of Mississippi in the South, many years ago, this means they were 18-year-olds who all aspired to go to college, but said that in reality, it probably was out of reach financially and otherwise for many of them. Many of them needed to go to work right away, not to go to college. They all were interested in politics. They were all hoping to understand better politics in their home state and at the national level. And I turned to them at the end of the class and I said, okay, for the next 15 minutes, you have 90 minutes and I want you to design a debate. It's totally yours. Tell me what you would do. And the first hand went up and a student said, I would hire a translator. Now, as many of you probably know, there are people in this country, and I am lucky enough to have roots in the deep south of the United States, who will say that Southern United States English is its own language. You actually need an interpreter just to enter that area of the country and to have a conversation. So in some quarters, this would provoke a chuckle. But what this student meant was, please have the candidates use language in the debates that we can understand. Please have them talk about things that make sense to us. Because these kids knew intuitively, instinctively, that whatever a president decides to do, for instance, regarding Social Security in our country or any other retirement system, is going to affect the well-being of their grandparents. It is going to affect how much that student's family has to support the older generation. They know intuitively that whatever a president decides in the Oval Office about sending soldiers into combat, that will affect immediate family members of theirs who are in the armed forces. They all understand that who is elected at any level makes a difference in a democracy. And what you want is the opportunity to understand who do you have the option of supporting? Who can you vote for? And why will that make a difference? At the end of the day, what we all have to strive for is to hope that this incredibly valuable time that's given to debates is used in the best possible way to inform each of us as citizens so that we can own the debates, own the information, and own our democracies as citizen investors in its success. It's a very profound concept, and I applaud everything you are doing to try to move forward. We are all here in Debates International to learn together, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be part of your forum today.
All right, thank you very much. So we are not done yet with Ms. Brown. She is still here with us, and we're going to do a Q&A. And we have the opportunity where we're going to be able to ask her as many questions as possible. And we also want to say thank you to our online viewers who are joining us. We know that Adiola Aziz is online, and also Wenga Chesson as well. So we want to say thank you to all of our online viewers who are joining us. This is a hybrid event, and we'll be taking questions from our online as well. I think for me, one of the major takeaways that I went from Ms. Brown's keynote is the fact that the debates belong to us. It's the one thing that is not curated, it doesn't have to be manipulated. And honestly, the candidates cannot hide behind pre-prepared answers as well, to a certain extent at least. So we are going to be asking questions to Ms. Brown, and there is our online panelists. If you can just give them a round of applause for joining us. And I'd like to call on Mr. Amarere, who's going to be moderating this Q&A session. A round of applause, please, for him as he joins us. I always wish that I had like a grand prize at events where in the beginning, if I said, whoever is the best clapper, I'll give you ₦1,000,000, but I don't have it. So I don't have it, but I do ask that you continue to encourage every one of our panelists and speakers, you know, just as you'd like to be celebrated. So another round of applause, please, for Mr. Amarere. Thank you. All right, over to you, sir.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Brown, for that very incisive keynote address. You have laid so much down that I'm sure our people here and those who are online would want to engage with. Is this okay?
It's more convenient.
All right. So, well, I was fortunate to get some training from the Commission for Presidential Debates in the US as far back as 2007, 2008. And we have benefited immensely in Nigeria from that process. But don't let me do all the talking. Let's get you to ask Ms. Brown all the questions that you need to ask. So please indicate if you have any questions, both physically here and online. How do we get to know those who are online, who are willing, who are wishing to ask questions?
Any questions that are online will be sent to me, and then I'll go ahead and read them out.
All right. So let's start from here. Anyone here who wants to engage with Ms. Brown, please? Yes. The gentleman on the second row at the back. Please get the microphone to him. Or please step forward. Step forward. Please introduce yourself and ask your question. Take this.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. So I was going to say that my question is that...
Please, your name?
My name is Dakwa Ubeku, sorry. Dakwa Ubeku, my name. And my question is this. Now, we know that to get the culture of debates one that is largely acceptable in Nigeria, citizens have to first see value in it. Unlike sinner climbs, which might never be the case anymore, we know that they start establishing culture. People, they must hold the debates. They must be present at the debates. But in Nigeria, for example, a governor or anybody can decide not to show up, and there's no penalty. Now, in the US, for example, how did they get to that stage where it's important to hold it? You cannot avoid the debates. How did they get there? And what can Nigeria learn from that process? Or rather, would Nigeria have to just keep striving like EiE's doing and other people, hold conversations around debates, host debates every now and then, and hopefully a government comes, buys it in, and then it's institutionalized? What process can Nigeria learn from what is working there in how we can make this debate structured? Thank you.
All right, do we have any others? I think we should take a few before we allow her to respond. Yes. Please, your name and the institution you represent, and then your question.
Thank you very much. I'm Dele Omoyeni. I work with Channels Television. I'd like to ask Madam Brown, the truth is all politics is local. So my question is, should organizations like EiE move to the streets and ask parliament in Nigeria to make debates compulsory, to put it in the laws? Because in America, the candidates see the need. That's why they go for those debates. But it appears in Nigeria, they don't see the need. And so one of the things that has been a cause of worry for lots of people is that we don't interrogate the people who lead us very well. As someone has said, I think it was Mrs. Aligwood that said that they just tell us what they want to do, they don't tell us how. And so there's a process to everything. So the debates would tell us how you intend to do those things. So should EiE, just like, women have been at the front of the National Assembly protesting for several bills. So should EiE and other organizations actually invade the National Assembly and say, please put this in our laws? I know there's a member of the House of Reps here, so he's also listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other for now? Okay, we allow Ms. Brown to take those two questions, and then we can come back for more questions. Ms. Brown?
Two very good questions, very important topics. How do we get to the point where debates are just accepted and they take place? It has taken a long time in this country. And the fact that they are now accepted does not mean that we don't have speed bumps along the way. However, I think it's extremely important for this is an opportunity for the community to come together and share its objective in the benefits of debates. That means citizenry, civic groups, the media, and other NGOs like EiE, higher education institutes. This is something where there is commonality particularly between the media and NGOs and civic organizations. The media has a huge role to play in getting information from the debates themselves to the public. It's a function of two things, both media coverage and technology, which thankfully can be used in very creative and aggressive ways to the benefit of the citizenry, especially to get at this issue that was mentioned earlier about urban versus rural. But you need to work toward this culture of debates, this new status quo in which saying no to a debate is going to be met with pushback and with skepticism and with doubt. In the beginning, when debates happened in this country, you will remember there were very famous Nixon-Kennedy debates in 1960, which was the first time that television as a medium could have supported this kind of a national political event. What happened afterwards? In spite of the huge attention to those events and a very big audience, there were no debates again until 1976. That was because of reasons that the candidates offered in the subsequent elections, 64, 68, 72, that basically the public lived with. They did not object to. And the reason, obviously, is that there was no established sense of the public having the right to expect this. They need to come to be seen as routine. And I commend to you the example of Argentina. I have mentioned a couple of times Debates International, which is one of the most surprising developments at the Commission on Presidential Debates since our founding. Shortly after we were founded, we started to get inquiries from NGOs like EiE from different ways, sometimes directly, sometimes through US embassies, all of them asking, how can we, an NGO in a particular country, either start or improve our leadership debates? The reason for the contact was simply that the US debates are seen all over the world. They are broadcast in real time by all major media outlets. And it seemed to all of these other countries that this was something that in fact would help enhance democracy and move it along. That is an absolutely remarkable thing. There was no particular reason that happened. It was absolutely organic. It has resulted in a 40-country network called Debates International. And I strongly urge you to go on our website. Nigeria has been a strong partner in Debates International for years. And the website offers a cornucopia of information regarding what different countries have done vis-a-vis debates and educational activities around the debates. Argentina started from no expectation that there would be debates, in fact, active work against them by the candidates. And over a 3-year period, did the most extraordinary job of putting together coalitions of the debate sponsoring organization, Argentina Debate, the media groups, working with campaigns so that they would understand what these debates were all about, that there would be no surprises, that this was something that was going to be good for the country. And they got to a remarkable place of having the debates be a featured part of the election with extraordinary audiences from the get-go. So I strongly recommend you look at what they have done. And as Yemi knows, there are people there that I know would be very pleased to share their experiences. They have every right to be extremely proud of what they have done. To go to the second question regarding compulsory debates and whether you should think about having Parliament mandate these, there is every reason to look at that very seriously. I don't think if a law were passed in the United States mandating debates, that it would be upheld as being constitutional, because it is basically the reverse of free speech. In parliamentary systems, there is an entirely different set of factors to look at, and I would refer you to almost our newest member of Debates International, the Canadian Debate Commission, which is parliamentary chartered and founded and is run by some wonderful, energetic, and smart colleagues who have done an astonishing amount of work in a very short time, including addressing the issue of how important it is to get debates telecast in many different languages in order to meet all of the different populations of a country. So I am not expert at all in parliamentary systems. I don't know if this is something that would assist Nigeria, but there is every reason to examine it, to talk with thoughtful politicians, office holders, and understand, could this be done in a way that was helpful to the debates without bringing along a lot of things that dictate details that a debate sponsoring organization does not want to have absolutely set in cement. Debate should be allowed to evolve. It's what I mentioned regarding our format. We have come a long way since our first debates, where it was a very staid affair with a moderator 3 panelists and very strictly allotted time to candidates for their answers and rebuttals. Now we have 6 pods of 15 minutes in our debates that are, each pod is devoted to one topic. And the moderator has the discretion to move the conversation along during that 15-minute period without constant micro timing mechanisms. So I don't think it's helpful to have legislation that dictates all of the details about a debate, because those will change from year to year, and they should change so that they continue to serve the public.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions online?
Yes, we do. We have 2 questions. The first question is from Bumi Oke. And the question is, what strategy would you recommend for presidential debates in a complex country of diverse languages like Nigeria? And our next question is from Hussein, and it says, what measures can be taken towards making the debates so important for aspirants? Because here in Nigeria, it's something else based on their ego. Thank you. So those are the 2 questions.
All right, Ms. Brown, I hope you got those 2 questions.
I did. Another great 2 questions. The language issue is extremely complicated. We are lucky in this country that our broadcast goes out in one language. Yemi knows our executive producer, Marty Slutsky, and I can see Marty going even grayer than he already is if he thought that he had to do these in as many languages as the Canadians do. Again, that is a production complexity. It can be, I believe, it can be overcome if you get the right people involved in the production. These broadcasts are extremely important. It is vital that you have a format and a broadcast in whatever format, whether it's TV, radio, or streaming, that is dignified and that allows the public to hear and see everything in a seamless way. So the production is absolutely key. From the beginning, you need to factor in the number of languages and what that will mean about how to do the debate in a technical way that allows you to meet those citizens, again, to go back to what the previous panel said, where they are, where they live, how they speak, and how they can absorb information. That is the only right and dignified thing to do. And again, I would highly recommend that you talk to our friends in Canada. Michel Cormier and his colleagues have done an astonishing job in trying to get their arms around 8 to 10 languages that they are trying to reach in their broadcasts. And obviously, it goes without saying, we are here, the commission, to help with anything that we can in helping to think through these production issues. The getting to where these are just an accepted and an expected part of an election campaign is hard work. But I must say that I think there is great value in the simple question to candidates: what do you have to do that is more important? Why in this campaign, which is a long, hopefully productive job interview for you to be selected to govern a country, and to go back to the previous panel again, to tell us how you will govern. Why is it asking too much for you to address the people of this country with your primary opponents and to explain what you would do as opposed to what they would do? Why is that asking too much? That's a very simple question. And if that can be the focus of an effort by EIE, along with your colleagues, your partners, the media, to basically have one voice in asking the candidates to commit to this. It is hard, and you must commit to a sustained effort to try to make it come to the point where, as it does in this country, if a candidate says no, the public says that's not acceptable.
All right. Two more questions. If there are any. One here. One gentleman here and one at the other end. Very quickly, please step forward. This will be the last two questions for this session.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Kemi Busari. I'm the editor of Dubawa. Anytime we talk about election, one thing that comes to my mind is political participation. So, for instance, in the last 3 presidential elections in Nigeria, participation in 2011 was 54%, 2015 about 44%, and in 2019 about 35%. So it keeps reducing by the year. So my question is there any strength that political debate holds in making sure that people come out to vote? And if yes, what are the new strategies that need to be deployed by the organizers of this debate? Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Gospel Precious. So mine is this. We've found in Nigeria, for example, that it is the incumbent in power that somehow refuses to attend debates, just like we saw in 2019. And mine is this, a question to her as it is to those of us here. How can we maybe, I know some people have said, okay, let's push National Assembly to see how we can make it a law going forward. But that may not be practicable for the next election. So can we advocate to INEC to make it part of their guidelines as the election managers? I mean, is this something we can do before going towards the 2023 election? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's get your response, Ms. Brown. I think the last question is possibly directed at us here. We answer that here, but let's get Ms. Brown to answer the first question.
The question of turnout in our country is always a concern. It is nothing like we would hope. It has gotten a little bit better recently, but I would urge EIE to focus on the debates and separate the issue of turnout to the extent that you can while you are trying to bring together candidates to commit to the debates and to commit to a debate format that is educational. In this country, the viewership of debates is enormous. In 2020, the first presidential debate was seen by more than 70 million people through conventional television broadcasts. When you add online streaming and international, it's probably, the audience was probably around 120 million people. As you all know, that's getting into World Cup regions. That is a lot of viewers and listeners. If debates do their job, they will motivate people to register and vote, the other pieces of RSVP. And if you look at exit poll data in the United States, it shows consistently for decades that more people find the debates helpful in deciding how to vote than any other single factor. That does not say necessarily they change people's minds. It does say that they find them extremely helpful. I would urge you to put your energies towards making the debates the best you possibly can, and that turnout concerns will be informed and hopefully made better because of really good, informative, provocative debates. There's a key bit of advice in our business that I would suggest you bear in mind. Debates are are big and complicated. They are not rocket science, which is good, because I'm not sure that our team should be in charge of a space shuttle. But they do take time and attention. And it is extremely important for the public and for the candidates that you get them right. That is the only respectful and dignified thing to do. But they do take a lot of time and attention. And as I like to say to people that are trying to get to where we are in terms of the public expectation, that these will happen. And this is exactly what Argentina did. Don't blink. Do not take your foot off the accelerator. You have got a big job. Focus on getting it right. Don't get distracted. Don't get discouraged, and don't blink.
Thank you so much, Ms. Brown. Thank you very much. And I think the last question that was asked had to do with whether or not the Independent National Electoral Commission can make debates part of its guidelines. Well, I don't think that the law establishing INEC empowers it to do that. But I know that over time, INEC has always encouraged the political parties and the candidates especially to participate in election debates. I recall that in some years past, the INEC, in fact, assisted the Nigeria Elections Debate Group with some funds in organizing those debates that we have been talking about. Essentially, it is the responsibility of about 4 or 5 institutions and bodies in Nigeria to carry out political enlightenment and to encourage people to turn out to vote on election day. The Independent National Electoral Commission is one of them. The media is one of them. The political parties, their primary responsibility is to mobilize voters to go to the polls, to mobilize voters to share their view, their world view of what they want to do in power and get the people out to vote. And then, of course, civil society organizations also have the responsibility of political enlightenment and mobilization of voters to the polls on election days. So these are the institutions, these are the bodies, these are the organizations that should go out there and do mobilization and get more people to come out and vote, and get more people enlightened politically. That's what we mean when he talked earlier on about political education. People must be conscious, they must be aware to want to, in the first place, cast their ballot for a particular party or a particular candidate. Thank you so much for your attention during this session.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause, please, for Ms. Samarere. And conversation is not wrapping up. We do have one more panel. Now, this next panel is on debates, and we're going to be furthering the conversation, really asking ourselves how to implement some of the ideas and also some of the questions that were raised by Ms. Brown. Because I think we're just kind of getting to the tip of the iceberg. You know, we need to really dig in and ask ourselves, how are we going to implement? I know when Enough is Enough Nigeria has an event, they don't just have it just for us to be able to talk and discuss. It's because we want to make sure that we see progress and action will be taken. So I'd like to introduce our panelists for this debate panel. First of all, I'd like to call on the Executive Director of Enough is Enough Nigeria, Yemi Adamoleko. Yemi is an active citizen. She currently serves as the Executive Director of EiE's, a non-partisan network of individuals and organizations committed technical team. Don't let us fight. All right, thank you. Thank you. A non-partisan network of individuals and organizations committed to building a culture of good governance and public accountability in Nigeria through active citizenship. Yemi has 23 diverse years spanning in the public sector and the private sector in America and in Nigeria. She also is very passionate about Nigeria, and she truly has served her country. So a round of applause, please, for Yemi. Our next panelist is Mr. Edward Emesiri. He is the Executive Secretary of Nigerian Elections Debate Group, a retired director of DAR Communications, whose work experience has spanned from in-depth educational research and lectureship in Nigeria through print media, where media and socio-economic quantitative and qualitative research became vital for the use in his collection of data, and of course talking about the role in electronic media currently. His work has spanned over 20 years. Ladies and gentlemen, please make some noise for Mr. Edward Emersiri. Also joining us online is Mercy Tosin Ayodele. Mercy is a Nigerian politician. She's the first female party chairman of Obukun local government and the first female Osun governorship candidate in 2018. She's joining us virtually. Please make some noise for her. And our last panelist is the Honorable Minister of Works and Housing. His introduction might not need an introduction, but I'm going to go ahead and do this. Babatunde Raju Fashola is a SAN, and after a 14-year stint in law practice, he's been serving in the public service for the last 18 years. In that period of public service, he served as the Chief of Staff and Commissioner in Lagos State, and of course, as a two-time governor of Lagos State. He is now serving as the Minister for Works and Housing, and also has truly showed us what it means to have some progress when it comes to the role and the economic progress that happened in Lagos State. So please welcome our panelists. This, of course, is going to be moderated by, I'm going to introduce him properly now, and I want you guys to clap very well, because last time I did not like what you guys did. So please help me welcome our moderator who was here before, Mr. Olusegun Adeniyi, a father, married with 3 children, and of course, the chairman of the editorial board of This Day, where he writes a weekly column. Yes. A round of applause, please, for him as he comes and makes his way. So after this, we will have a Q&A, so I would like you guys to prepare your questions, and everyone should have a microphone.
Thank you very much. I think we can go straight to the issue. I will begin with Your Excellency. Let's recall 2007.
Sorry, Mr. Adeniyi, I just have a quick interjection. Before we get to that, I'm going to invite Yemi, who has a goodwill message that she would like to read, and then we'll go ahead and proceed to the debate. Apologies for that.
Okay.
Sorry, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, Janet, for making time. I also wanted to just say that before, in case she has to log off. She's 5 hours behind, so when we started at 10 a.m., it was 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the US, and she started speaking about 6 a.m. So thank you very much, Janet, for sharing. Thank you for your willingness. I reached out via email, and she readily agreed. EIE is part of Debates International, and we continue to learn with other partners. So thank you, Janet, for making time. Thank you for sharing. And we look forward to when debates will be part of our culture as you've built it in the US. Thank you very much. My goodwill message is actually from the chairman of INEC, and interestingly, Mr. Marire ended with INEC. Unfortunately, he was supposed to be on the panel. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it. So I'm just going to read the message that he sent. The importance of political debates as a platform to reach out to the mass of citizens in a country or even a global audience through the mass media cannot be overemphasized. Debate is the key to human progress. Through debates, seemingly intractable challenges give way to new opportunities for the benefit of all citizens. No nation without a healthy debate. Over the years, INEC has supported the NEDG, Nigerian Elections Debate Group, and other CSOs that hosted debates to deepen the conversation around elections, to enable citizens assess political parties and candidates in order to make informed decisions on election day. Notice the key words he's using, informed. As in the case around the world, such debates are better organized by independent bodies rather than the commission.
Yes.
That is why INEC believes that debates among candidates for elections should remain in the hands of the private sector and civil society. Doing so guarantees neutrality, gives people confidence, and mobilizes greater participation in the electoral process. I am happy that this has been the case in Nigeria and should continue. We expect to see debates of different types as we approach the major off-cycle governorship elections in Ekiti State in June 2022, Osun State in July 2022, and ultimately the 2023 general election, which is just 325 days away. The Commission appreciates the untiring efforts of EIE and the support it has enjoyed from the development partners and the media organizations that have brought the debates live on several outlets. Doing so has not only helped citizens to make informed choices, but also contributed immensely to peaceful conduct of elections. Congratulations, EIE, on the occasion of your 12th anniversary, and most especially for your commitment to democratic ethos. Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, Chairman INEC, Abuja, Tuesday, 5th April, 2022. Thank you.
Yeah, we just continue the conversation from where we started, where we stopped the other time. I mean, debate is about accountability to the public. How much accountability do we really have in Nigeria when it comes to politics? And then I want you to share the experience of 2007, because I mean, that was, for me, the time when debate started actually making a difference in terms of election.
Okay, good morning, or good afternoon now, and thank you to EIE and particularly to Yemi Adamolekun for inviting me. I take this very seriously, and this is why I'm here. Let me, if you don't mind, set a little context. The idea of democracy itself is not divine. Is man-made. It was something created by men to respond to the tyranny of monarchies and to allow participation. And therefore, it requires continuous human intervention to perhaps improve it. So when I tell people that democracy does not guarantee good governance, sometimes they stand aback until I explain what I mean. On election day, what you are probably likely to see is a ballot paper with the signs, the symbols, possibly the names of the candidates. But it doesn't tell you what they know about your life, what they care about, how you feed. It doesn't tell you whether they are God-fearing, whether they will respond, whether they have empathy. So it is platforms like this that help you test ahead of making a choice. What kind of person you'll be entrusting the most serious job either in your local government or in your state or in your country too. And that became very defining for me as a young person, much younger person. In 1993, the biggest single item in the public space, economic space, was the price of petrol. And if you ask people before that election, it was a given. It was thought that it was impossible for MKO to defeat a Bashir Tofa, given the groundswell of perceptions that raised around elections. But on that night, it became clear to Nigerians who watched the debate that the most important issue to them, only one of the candidates had a consciousness about it. And the normal thing to then do is to gravitate towards that candidate. And I remember that was when I went out to vote for MKO. And if you do a poll or a survey, you will find out that even in the north, where it was thought that MKO didn't have a base, the price of fuel was a major issue. And it probably tilted the election. Now, this is one of the many processes for making informed choices. In 2007, people didn't know who I was politically. The people who knew me were the judges and the lawyers in the courtroom. And they said, look, where did you bring this candidate from? And it was clear to me that the only way I was going to connect with people was during that debate. So, but the Channels debate was one of 11 debates that we had then. So when you're talking about people not wanting to participate in debates, if you understand that it is about people, you will participate. So the Lagos Business School organized a debate. Manufacturers Organization, NASIMA, Lagos Chamber of Commerce, and I remember the Anglican Communion under the aegis of Khan, Bishop Vining. 14 of us were there. Ansarudin were interested to know what we were going to do. So these were all platforms that, and then of course, Channels TV, which was the biggest debate of the time. LTV organized the debate. Silverbird organized the debate. So, and there's a lot of preparation that also goes into, because I take it seriously. So at 10 a.m. on the day of the Channels TV debate that was going to happen at 7 o'clock, I was checked into Sheraton where it would happen. So I had debate preparation. Colors, what to wear, mannerisms on stage. I had 3 debate rehearsals as a candidate. One with politicians, one with lecturers, one with journalists. Each one, we had a feedback. It was recorded. So all the mannerisms that I had to cut out was played back to me. Anger in my face, how to mask it. So there's a lot of things. And that's why you heard Ms. Brown saying that is where vanished. That is when you are in control. And if you remember the Channels debate, one of the tipping points was that 2 of the candidates who had much more political experience than I unraveled, and they were abusing themselves. And if you play back that debate, one thing that I did immediately was to step into the middle. And that's probably what people are looking for. Who is the leader on this pack? So I was the peacemaker. And, well, the rest is now history. But in 2011, as a sitting governor, against advice, I participated again in 7 debates. Even though the polls showed that, well, I was a candidate to beat, and all of that, I still thought it was important. And if one of the characteristics of the tenure of our government then was the 100-day reporting cycle. It was also part of an interaction with people to get feedback. And if I dare say so, me and I first met at a policy debate like this. He called me out when I was Minister for Power, and I said, okay, you want organize the place and the time, and I will be there. And since then, of course, we'll be sharing thoughts about Nigeria's democracy. So this is important. And just a few other things before I hand it back to you. And I think they should take place in places like university campuses, which is where some of the debates take place in the US. There's nothing wrong with us. Yes, US culture. The UK is just adapting it in the last 2 election cycles or so, and the current Prime Minister even decided I wasn't going to participate in some debates. I think they're important. I think labor groups, manufacturers groups, interest groups can organize debates, and if there are candidates who seriously want to get the votes of those people, these are the platforms, perhaps, to speak to them. Not just only debates, you will see that elections in other jurisdictions take place amongst interest groups. You see them going to bakers, to brewers, to iron workers, to steel workers, to artisans. And those are much more important for me in town halls than just the rallies where there is only one way. So let me, so that we can have a two-way conversation.
Yeah, Yemi, now to EI has organized a number of debates, especially in off-cycle gubernatorial elections. I mean, given your experience in the past years, what would you say are the drawbacks? What can be done better in terms of these debates, either in planning or from the responses from the audience, or even from the candidates? What are the lessons you think we can take away from some of those debates that we've had, especially in off-cycle gubernatorial elections?
I think a recurring theme that Janet also alluded to was value, that we found it obviously easier when a candidate of one of the major parties sees the value in participating. And it's interesting, the Honorable Minister talked about, and you started with accountability, and he talked about me calling him out at a policy dialogue. Now, he said we should organize a debate and he will come, and he showed up. But interestingly, what he doesn't remember as well is that the first time I met him was a debate prep.
which is what he referred to. So the team preparing him for a debate got citizens who didn't know him to be in the room and sort of be his adversaries, so to speak. And that was my first interaction with him. So I think it speaks for me to how he takes it very seriously and the importance of it. So someone who understands the importance of debate, when you invite them, they will show up. Now, over the last, I guess, decade, we've seen in a mix of the caliber of candidates and also in citizens sort of talking a bit more about it, I think that is also shifting the conversation around the importance of it. So as I said in my opening remarks, a big thing was always access. Like, it's only for you people speaking English. But if we now say, okay, you can hear it in Yoruba, what next? Now, until candidates feel that a debate will affect their chances at the polls, I don't see them taking it as seriously. And I think that's the conversation that we need to begin to have. And it's not just about debates. It's about everything. It's about accountability, performance, because it's tied to that whole system about accountability. So if you feel that if I'm not accountable to the people who have elected me, then this will cost me. But because I don't want it to cost me, I will invest the time. Because the debate is not something you wake up, debate is at 7, you don't wake up at 5. Or you don't remind your 8, oh, there's a debate at 7, where is it? Are we going now? No, you prepare for it. And preparation speaks to also intent. So if you, and I think Ngozi alluded to this earlier, if you are clear about what it is you want to do and how you plan to deliver, coming to a debate is easier, quote unquote. So I think those things have helped. And again, media platforms. One of the things that our media partners have done also very well is merging the debate as an event itself with other media appearances pre-debate. So it's not just that you show up on the debate that we're hosting, but we do a one-on-one with you maybe a week before. And that also, that allows the candidate to feel that it's part of an ongoing media exposure to them. And I think lastly, what I would say as a lesson is that we've tended to leave debates to the last weekend before the election. And I'm not quite sure we should do that. I think it's important if we're talking about these conversations and engagement. I mean, I say this, in preparing for this, one of the things I kept saying was that I invited the Honorable Minister because in my view, he's probably the most debated politician that Nigeria has. If you do 11 debates for one election, do 8 debates for your second term, that is pretty significant. And that speaks to, yeah, it's definitely worthy to be clapped for, very much so. So I think it's keeping it to a week before. And I guess because also it's usually just one debate, so we do it the week before. But as more platforms begin to come up and we have multiplicity of opportunities for citizens to hear. So he talked about Anglican Church and Saruddin, Lagos Business School, Manufacturers Association. Everybody is talking about the issues that matter to them. So it allows a deeper conversation. Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Emezi. Now, just to expand on what Yemi said, the issue of preparation. Nigerian politicians don't believe that they should prepare for anything. I mean, I know politicians who ask their spokesman to prepare a speech for them or somebody, and they won't even read it before they get there. I've seen a situation where somebody was reading something, and he became angry in his own speech, and he had to. So how do you get them to take the public more seriously? I mean, it's because such people will not prepare for debates. Like Emi said, you said we have debate today. What time is it? When are we going? That's not taking the people seriously.
Well, thank you very much. I think taking from where they started from, I think we should understand that we don't take debate serious in the country. Since 1999, Obasanjo and Falai invited them for debate. Obasanjo was ready to come for that debate, and Falai had a very strong ground because he had AD and ANPP coalition alliance.
Yeah.
But he said he needed to get to Ibadan to talk at a rally. So rally was more important to him than coming for the debate. So he didn't come. He didn't come. And after the elections, Obasanjo who didn't have any ground whatsoever in the Southwest won the election. It wasn't because of the debate. But the essential thing was simply that Obasanjo was already preparing for that debate. He got people to work on him, just as the minister said he worked on a debate. So the Obasanjo was prepared for his own debate. Unfortunately, each time we invite people for debates and we tell them this is the date, the first thing they will tell you, that week is closed for me. Don't bother about that week. I have to visit this constituency, that constituency, so put it 2 days to the end of the debate, of the elections. So they seem to control what should be done about debates, politicians or political parties. When you talk to a political party about trying to train their candidate, they say it doesn't concern me, or go and meet the candidate if he's interested. In fact, right now, in case of the staggered debates in Osun and Ekiti, some political heavyweights are saying we are not going for debate.
Have you introduced dancing to it?
No, they say we're not going for debate because I have won elections before, and because I won elections, I know how I win elections. This is my man, and I know how he's going to win the election. But give him an opportunity to appear before the people. He said no. And I tell you, nobody knows him in the state. He's not even well known. But an opportunity, a platform you're giving him to enable him come out to meet the people, to see the people, talk to the people, answer questions from the people, he will likely miss it. So the people themselves, the politicians themselves, believe in fact, let me even give you a story that happened in Anambra. A politician told me, a candidate told me, I'm not going for a debate. I'm only looking for money to pay on the polling date. If I have the bags of money around all the polling booths, I will win the election. And at the end of the day, when election came in Anambra, he scored only 44. I called him. With all the bags of money you have, did you win the election? He said, the other people had more money than myself. So this is the problem. Our people don't think debate is important. Yeah. But the only person, at least from 1999 up to this day, who once thought debate was important was the present president. At a particular time, when he was supposed to appear before Obasanjo, he couldn't come. The next year, the next election, he was the first waiting for Obasanjo to come. He was the first waiting. So we asked him. He said, no, I must do this debate. Unfortunately, like always, the candidate in charge, the candidate in position refused to come. So we give them the opportunity to train, to tell them, look, this is 6 months before, and even if you look at the calendar, INEC calendar, when the names are released, when people go back to go and do all the counter registrations and all that, and then the final publication of the list, it leaves little time for any debate. Because what happens is immediately after that, political campaigns begin. And once they begin, no politician wants to bother about coming to sit in a hall to talk.
Okay, I'm coming back to my earlier question about accountability. When I talk about accountability, it's about accounting to the people, which is what debate is about. What exactly do you want to do? To test their ideas, their integrity, their temperament, everything. But they shy from doing this. Why do politicians run away from accountability? That's what I mean.
Again, it's also a culture. So don't forget that I was weaned in a culture of persuasion. Because before I came into public service, my entire life was in the courtroom trying to persuade people to take a particular course of action. So it's probably relatively easier, but it's not something that you cannot learn. And you don't have to necessarily speak in the language of the elite, if you like. It's just to connect and to show that you actually understand where the shoe pinches, and to also speak to very practical examples of how you will solve the problems. And I think that the questions of the House have been asked here. Is one thing to say, yes, I'm going to build this and I'm going to provide this number of hospital beds. Where's the money coming from? Because I need to know whether you are going to raise my taxes. I need to know whether the rich will pay more, and so on and so forth. I need to be prepared for it. So those are the issues of accountability, and perhaps, if you care, honesty about which way you will go. But if you permit me to do a quick segue, just to highlight again possible debates. We've heard there that the vice president also does a debate. In my second term, actually, the deputy governor and the running mates of the opposing candidates also participated in a debate. So, and it's important to make this point because we often make the general statement that, oh, deputy governors or vice presidents are spare tires. They're not. So if you read the constitution very carefully, unlike other constitutions, the Nigerian constitution seems to have deliberately wanted to make the vice president the person in charge of the economy. He's the chairman of the National Economic Council, even though it's an advisory body to the president. And so I would love to see debates around economic issues attended by economists to test their responsiveness. Some of the security issues that we deal with also come from boundary conflicts. The vice president is the chairman of the National Boundary Council. Privatization and its impact on our lives. Vice president is chairman of the National Privatization Council. So they really have very serious issues to contribute to the economy. The other point is about undecided. It came up and Yemi and I were having an aside. In the last election in 2019, there were 9% undecideds and there was a 5% lead. And that turned around to a 0.5 undecided and I think an 11% lead. So what I want to say in that regard is that there's a lot of work to be done, a lot of money to be made, also in investigating, surveying, polling, and analyzing human behavior. It's a lot of money and a lot of work. I've done it over 5 election cycles since 2002. I've done it for an incumbent governor. I've done it as a candidate twice. I've done it in 3 presidential elections. We've won 2 of them. And we have never lost any of the gubernatorial elections in which we did it. It's a lot of work that goes on. And it puts a lie to the general statement that votes don't count. They do. They do. Elections are not perfect sciences, but human behavior is what is at the heart of this. And if you find the message for the moment, you will win an election. And getting the message for the moment is actually conducting polls, conducting surveys. You hear about exit polls. People don't know. We did exit polls in 2019. So by the time INEC was collating its results, we were getting results in the command center here in Abuja. When our results came out and INEC's results came out, the difference was less than 0.5% in terms of numbers. So these things work. And there's a potential for a lot of employment here. So as we talk about the problems that we have, these are also enormous opportunities to put people to work, to collect data, analyze data, interact with people, and so on and so forth. There's a lot to share.
Okay. I think Mercy has been waiting online. Mercy, are you ready for your intervention?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Nigeria. Good afternoon, everybody. First, I want to congratulate Yemi for this anniversary. It has been 12 years. Congratulations, ma. I also want to give it to my honorable minister, sir. Nice meeting you. It's quite unfortunate that I'm not there in Abuja. I wish I could be there live. I want to appreciate EIE for what they have been doing so far. In 2018, I will tell you their debate was one of those things that actually puts me to the lights. I actually want to appreciate them because I was live online that day, and a lot of people that did not even know that I have that potential were like, they were calling from US, from Canada, from UK, that Mercy, we saw you and all that. It's a very good idea, and I want to tell all our politicians there that debate is very, very key. It's very, very important. It's very, very germane to whatever we are doing. You know, it's a kind of interaction between you and those who actually wanted to vote for you. And then, without even buying a vote, I know how many votes I got. And because my party then was a very young party, Restoration Party, but with that, I was able to get a reasonable vote across all the local governments in Osun State. So I want to give it up to EIE. They are doing a very good job. And I also want to tell all our politicians, stop shying away from debates. Debate is one of those things that is very, very important, that will tell who you are, that is going to open you up, that is going to show the world what you actually have in stock for the citizen you want to govern. So I want to appreciate Yemi for this. And I pray God will continue to bless you and empower you more. So I'm really, really happy to be here. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think the debate is good, especially in a multi-democracy like ours, when you elect people, governors and all that. But I'm also thinking that, like we said in the earlier panel, that the debate will be more useful if there are only limited number of debaters. So I'm looking at a situation where is it possible to limit the number of candidates that would, based on the strength of the political parties they represent? What would it be?
Well, it is very, very possible. Like, I always tell people, we have two political parties in Nigeria, two political parties and others. Like the day I was able to be on the live program, I was a substitute. As in one of the contestants, the candidates, I think PDP was not around. So, and I love this because EIE said they don't want to have an empty podium. But I made myself available. Okay. And that was how I got that platform. So it is, I think we need to look at those political parties very well, the ones that actually have the structure. Most of all these political parties don't have that structure. We should look at what they have as a structure and who exactly is contesting. I think we can have between 1 and 5 debaters during our election, during the governorship, during the presidential. So we can have about 1 to 5. Those ones that we have checked very well, and we know that they have the capacity and the strength to govern.
Thank you. I think Mr. Emesiri doesn't agree with me. I can see.
What I'm saying here is simply that you cannot, by law, if INEC approves 31 parties or 18, let's say 18 parties as we have now, and all the parties submit forms or candidates to be approved by INEC. When you want to do a debate, INEC expects that all the 18 candidates should be taken into consideration. But what we do on our own part is that we do a focus group research, we do our own search, all based, all done by professional organizations. The search is to find out exactly how many wards is your party office, resident. Then we want to find out exactly, as for constituency, you can have a party's constituency office in one place. But when if you dig deeper, you find out it's in the house of a member of that party. So if I'm a member, for instance, of one party, and I live in, say, in Mararaba, my house is used as a political party office. So these are things we use to disqualify a political party, a candidate. We look at all the things about the political party, and then we go further to looking at his own pedigree. What have you done before? What were you? For instance, if you had worked in civil service for so many years, then we know at least, or if you had worked at the managerial level for so many years, we know you can do something. If you had run your own business for so many years, it's something you can be considered. Amongst all this, with all the people there, they look at all this and say, okay, because of time, the media organizations that are providing time for you won't give you the whole world. They give you just about 2 hours in a day. So even if you say you want to do a set of three debates, then it simply means you only have 6 hours, two. The governorship candidates, the deputy, the presidential candidate, and the vice presidential candidate. Then a third one would be the DGs of that particular campaign team. So you only have 2 hours. So you need to restrict it. And if you look at the number, how many minutes can somebody answer a question on the podium to give me something credible to assess him? So you expect 6. If you have 2 hours, if you divide 2 hours, which is 120 minutes by 6 on the podium there, you know how many minutes one question can go. So by the time you do all these things, you now understand why it is necessary to say, let us reduce the number. But you don't reduce the number because you want to reduce it. You reduce it based on evidence or facts on ground, which is where the research comes in, where the search comes in, and where everything about your capacity also plays a role.
No, I just wanted to stand here just to indicate my presence.
Can we take questions from
yes,
the audience?
Exactly.
Can I speak to that? Sorry, I actually wanted to speak to that because we've gotten into trouble with it quite a few times and I think Channels was sued at a point for not inviting a particular candidate. For the reasons that he gave depth, and one of the things I used to say at the time, I wasn't an organization like any DG. I say I'm a private organization. None of our debates have been grant funded. So we will find money, raise money. I will talk to a media platform that will donate time. And then you will not have one poster, not have one office, and you want me to give you time on stage. It can't work. And I was ready to challenge any candidate that took that on. What media platforms tended to do was then do sort of short interviews with any candidates that raised an issue. But I'll use Ms. Mercy as an example in Osun because it's critical, and that's the reason why I invited her today. In Osun, there were 48 candidates in Osun 2018. We ranked all of them based on this criteria. And then we had a list of our top 10. The 2 candidates that didn't show up were Senator Adeleke of PDP and Senator Omishore. So by debate day, the 2 of them didn't show up. We had 5 slots. We reached out to the next 2 people on the list. I believe Ms. Mercy was either number 6 or number 7. And as she said, she made herself available. Her story is also critical because as a woman, I get challenged a lot by not having women at debates. That why don't I just have one slot? That whichever woman is contesting, I'll pick one and she'll be there. And I say, I'm sorry, you're a woman, but you don't have a campaign office. Why should I hold you to lesser standards than I would owe your male counterparts? And so Ms. Mercy came on the list. Yes, certainly. Ms. Mercy was appraised with everybody else, came 7th. But when 2 people decided not to come, why not give her that opportunity? And as she said, she really, I mean, even me that day, I was like, oh, wow. Because I didn't know her, I didn't know anything about her party, but it was really, really quite good.
I'm going to go over to the audience, and I'm going to ask for the microphone. So I'm going to start, first of all, with Auntie Jumake, who shot her hand up and wants to ask a question. And then, actually, can I have everybody that wants to ask a question put their hand up? Because we're not going to go through. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think that's it. Yemi? 6, yeah? Okay. And I'm just going to ask that if you could please get to the question, not as much preface and introduction as possible, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations, Yemi. Jumoke Duwole, I'm a special advisor to the president on ease of doing business. So my question is this. I've been hearing repeatedly about incumbents and the two major political parties not turning up for elections. And I was listening to our keynote speaker very closely about how what's more important time-wise than showing up. So what are the strategies that you are going to adopt going forward to make sure we put that pressure on incumbents and leading politicians to find it important enough to make themselves available? Who's next?
I think it's better to do one at a time. Yeah.
Yeah, the question is to you.
And if we can just have maybe one response from each question.
The biggest thing is to show value and what it would cost. So I'll use Lekki as an example because it's a present issue. So tolling returned to one of the Lekki toll gates, and two groups of people have protested against it. Those who were part of the NSAS protests, and the issue is simply, until Lagos State addresses the recommendations from the judicial panel, they shouldn't start collecting money. Another issue is that there's subsisting court judgments from 2014 saying that it's illegal, that Lagos State got a stay of execution, but have not prosecuted the appeal. Second point. And then the third point is Lekki residents. Lekki residents are saying that the fact that we have to go back and forth on the toll to get to wherever, go to work, go to a market, there's no market in the Lekki-Ekpe corridor, go to a hospital, that it's very expensive to be going back and forth. They wrote an open letter and put it in the paper. The governor of Lagos State invited them for a meeting on Sunday. Now, what I take away from that is that he saw the value in this constituency not being very happy with what we were doing as government, and he was willing to engage. So I think for us as citizens, it's really what Ms. Brown was saying. If we get to a point that we can amplify it enough to say that no debate and you don't get our votes, that we as voters who either want your, like, let's say I really like you and you're running, but I'm not, apparently someone told Governor Sanwo-Olu in the meeting to his face that I'm an APC supporter, but if you do this toll, I will campaign against you. Now, in a direct face to someone who says it's a supporter, it's a cost that he can see. So I think if we make it a cost for candidates, we'll get a bit of traction. And then secondly, amplifying the fact that we're given access. So for a lot of people, debates are still English. So we need to amplify the fact that you'll be able to hear it in Yoruba. You'll be able to hear it in Pidgin or Igbo, depending on if there is a state election or a presidential election. And also, you don't need DSTV to watch it. You will hear it on your radio. So I think, for me, those would be the things. Language, channels, and really showing candidates that your people that you want, voters, would expect it of you to get their vote. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next question, please.
My name is Mohammed Jinadu. I report with Voice in Nigeria. My question is this: before debate, before election, academic works or intellectual works are not out there enough for the voters to understand who this candidate, the profiling of these candidates, which is actually what affects the democracy that we all yearn for. How can we improve on that?
Mr. Nestor, can you respond to that?
You know, when you talk about profiling, getting to know a lot about this thing, there are certain assignments that are left for some people. The debate groups, the people who come out for debate, they are not expected to go out and publicize the candidates. It says the political parties who should do this, who should reach out to the voters, reach out to people and tell them, our man is coming on a debate on this particular day. The people, all we need to do is just to publicize, to say a debate comes up on this particular day, 1 month or 2 months ahead, and it's done. Two, we don't own, the debate organizations don't own airtime. You get airtime as a gift from the media organizations. And the media organizations themselves have now moved another step forward. Instead of now collaborating, they want to do it themselves. So that's why you now have a proliferation of debates. LCCI, Lagos Chamber of Commerce, want to do a debate, they buy airtime. Another group wants to do, they buy airtime. Then NEDG wants to do, and we say, because you all belong to BON, the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, let us have, they will say, no, I won't give you Tuesday, I won't give you a Saturday, I'll give you a Thursday. If NTA gives you a Thursday, and Channels gives you a Tuesday, EiE's gives you Wednesday, you have a problem. How to get everything together. So you're looking for 2 hours on a day that all of them will agree. And the reason why each of them have differed is that on Tuesday, Channels has some advertising a program to run where they are making money. EiE's does the same. AIT does the same. So you need to ask them to make a sacrifice. And when they make that sacrifice, it will either be on a Saturday or on a Sunday, where we have less deluge of advertising.
Yeah, let me just add to us. Actually, the debate answers the question you asked, because it is at the debate that some of these candidates may want to puncture the credentials of the, like we saw in Anambra. I mean, it may not go far, but that will begin to raise questions in the mind of voters. They begin to say, does it mean that this guy doesn't really have what he pretends to have? And then those questions, voters can begin to ask those questions after the debate. So I think debate is valuable, even in terms of bringing out the credentials or what some of these candidates pretend to be.
All right, thank you. We'll go our next question.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Yusuf Liade Abiodun from YIP Nigeria. I would like to know if the debate is majorly meant to focus on presidential and governorship election, or we can be having it at the grassroots, because I believe local government elections have a significant impact on grassroots people. So is it possible to be taking it to the chairmanship election? And if it is possible, so we can see how we can work with EIE to make this work. Thank you.
Yeah, Your Excellency, you answered that question, but before you answer it, how credible are local government elections in Nigeria today, given the way governors are bastardized? I mean, in every state, the party of the governor wins 100%. In every state. Yeah, I mean, I've watched local government elections.
It's a free and fair election
so now. We must always be very careful of a one-sided story. Yeah. So when you really look at it, the overwhelming dominance of one party to the other in one state probably suggests to you that you will expect that will translate down the line. Of course, there are places where you will expect to see that at least opposition can win one councillor seat, because also the journey to greatness for any political party doesn't start from the top. So from when power changed hands to the Republicans 5 years ago, after the Obama era, people may not know, but from then, the Republicans had started winning state electoral seats, state seats, regional seats, and it then culminated in winning the presidential election. So you don't just come one day and turn everything around. That said, let us also remember that all of the debates don't have to be on TV. Yeah. I said that I participated in the first time in 11 debates. Only 3 were on TV: Channels TV, Silverbird, and LTV, because they were television stations. But all the other debates I went to were town hall meetings where we were put on stage, and people who had an interest in how our candidacy will affect their lives were asking us questions. What are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about that? How is it, what is going to change about how we choose your votes? Those were the things that affected. So, to the question, therefore, this can and really should happen at the local government level. In fact, that is where the culture must be ingrained, because that is the government that really impacts me the most. That is the government that deals with my refuse, that deals with my water supply, that deals with primary education, that deals with primary health care. If that government works, it really shouldn't be of moment to me who is governor. It really shouldn't be, or who is president. Because most of the things that affect me, the taxes, the levies that affect me as a small business, BRF, law firm, MSME, are impacted by that government. So we should have this, and we have the critical mass. So we shouldn't wait for EIE. We have interest groups, market women. We can organize them and tell them, if you don't come, these people are not going to vote for you. They have taken a position to vote against a party whose candidate doesn't appear. That's enough, because also the turnout at elections is not evidentially proven yet to correlate to debates and participation. But the suggestion is there. The evidence is not flimsy that if a candidate persuades me during the debate, the likelihood is that I will want to go out, because I will see myself as having been involved in producing that candidate. I want to go out and will invariably, hopefully, see larger turnouts. To all the questions that have been asked before, I couldn't agree more with all the responses that have been made. This is something that must become cultural for us. It is one of the many ways in which we can interrogate who we are entrusting with the most important job. It's a job interview, as we have been told. So why shouldn't we participate? So how do I want to hire somebody to help do something in my office, and the person who doesn't show up for the interview expects to get the job? So where is my hiring power? My hiring power is to say you're disqualified. And in terms of wanting to know who the background, again, I'm going to recommend 2 books. I can't remember the names of the journalists. One is Double Down. The other one is Game Change. They're very detailed literature about President Obama's election and re-election. But if you take time to read them, you can find them on the apps and whatever. Double Down and Game Change. It's written by 2 journalists, something Halperin and another. You will see all of the work that goes on. So going to debate is not about me just preparing. It's about my team getting every information about which kind of water my opponent has drank since the day he was born, the kind of clothing he has worn, every plate of gari he has ever engulfed in all his life. I will have that information at my fingertip. And you will see in those books how poor a debater Barack Obama actually was. Very horrible debater. But they changed him, managed him for the press event, especially in his second term. So there's a lot of prep. Again, I go back to employment. Democracy offers us so many things. We haven't begun to turn the leaf. There's so much work to do. I look at the work of lobbyists and people don't get things done in parliament. That is another realm of employment that we haven't begun to play in. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. And we're going to hold you to that. He said if they don't debate, they shouldn't get the job. We'll remember next year. All right, let's have a question over there, please.
My name is Mr. Sanusi Hamisu from Hamisu Educational Foundation. My question is straight direct to Yemi. Sorry to say it so direct. That for whatever we are saying, I don't think that whenever we do not include National Orientation Agency in creating awareness for any debates, I think it will go a long way in making many people participate or watching that debate. From all indication, is EIE Is there any platform that you have to, that you engage National Orientation Agency? If not, is there any way you are going to reach to them before the next debate so that at least they can create more awareness? As social, that is entertainment industries, they play a major role in the life of the youths. Yeah. Is there a way that you can engage them in?
So I didn't hear the second one. So one is National Orientation Agency.
Second is entertainment industries.
Entertainment
industries, yes.
Right. Okay.
Then the last question is that most of the reason why many of the participants, maybe the candidates, doesn't want to appear in any debate, simply is that they are scared of the question to be asked. Because if you are in the media industry, you find out that whenever they want to invite any heavy political power into media house, they must have to give me a clue of the kind of question they want to ask him. Most of the media houses does that. If not, some of them will not even participate in that interview. Is how secured is the debate questions before the D-Day?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the first one around, and it just flew out of my head. Oh, National Orientation Agency. Right. So if you look at EiE's Office of the Citizen logo, the green passport that you got, it has it's a play on the coat of arms that would have the Office of the President. So this one says Office of the Citizen. Now, to actually use that logo, because it has the coat of arms, we had to partner with a government agency. And the government agency we partnered with was the National Orientation Agency. So 2 of the pages of the information in that booklet is actually provided by the National Orientation Agency. So we're in partnership with them, but one of the things the NOA complains about is funding, that they're not a well-funded government agency. And unfortunately, there's nothing we as a civil society organization can do about that. They've been very helpful in terms of when they do go out, we'll partner with them. They will come as guests on our radio program to teach some of the ethics and values that are in our constitution, but they are restrained in that way. Entertainment industry, very, very apt. With every election, we try to get as many of them using their platforms to engage citizens, not only on our RSVP campaign, go and get your PVC, pay attention to the kind of candidates that you select. So with this cycle as well, we will do the same thing, encouraging them to leverage their voice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yemi. I believe we had 2 more questions, but okay. Gentleman in the back, please. And the last question, yes, the gentleman in the front. If you can, yeah, we'll just wait for her to get over there shortly. And thank you to our online viewers who are still with us as well. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Ina Okopi Agu. I'm the Interim National Secretary of the African Action Congress, one of the 18 political parties. I'd like to direct my question to the gentleman on the far right. In 2019, we had a situation where the debate that held at Transcorp Hilton, had some candidates who had crisscrossed this country, held town hall meetings. And on the day of when the debates were going to be held, they were shut out of the debate. Our opinion at the time was maybe because they were too critical, the candidates' opinion and views were too critical of the people in power. Going forward, what are they going to do differently? Because the same candidates you shut out at from your debate were hosted by people like Kaderia Ahmed, and they did well. So the question would be, in this 2023 coming, what are you going to do differently? Should we expect that you're more tolerant of people with very critical views about people, especially in government? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me try to correct the impression that you've just created. The candidates who appeared for the debate in 2019 were selected based on a research poll across the country. And like I explained to you, we consider your ward level presence, constituency presence, local government presence, state presence, look at your senatorial presence, and then most persons like you, your organization, I can tell you this, you had your office in the state capitals. You didn't extend to the ward level. So by the time we did the analysis, we found out that your candidate came 7th, just one short of the 6 that we required. 2, we could have given him an opportunity because of his age. He was a youth. But that also had to go with the fact that there was only one lady on the podium also. So we all voted. We had more women on that panel, and the women voted for the female gender. That was what happened. That was why your man didn't come. You took us to court. No, what happened was that Atiku was there. Atiku was there. Let me tell you what happened. I will explain to you what happened. Yes, wasn't there.
So they voted for a woman to replace.
No, was it? And so she
was there.
Okay.
But what happened? What actually happened was we rely on these reports, and it is important. The only thing I will advise you to do is to make sure at least that the chairmen that you have in the states should expand themselves to the world level. We received a case where somebody had to use a market stall for his office. A market stall for his office. Use the chairman of a market association and just. We went to the place, and the man told me, "I'll not be party member. Now I know the person. They just use my shop. They make an office." So these things happen. But what we're trying to do, because right now, last year we had more parties. This year I think we have about 18. We're waiting to see whether all the 18 will be approved. We are looking forward to doing at least 2 debates for each of the candidates. 2 presidential debates, 2 vice presidential debates. So if we're able to get that, if it is 18, then we'll take 9 and 9. But if it is not, if it is less than that, then we still have more opportunities. It's just that you people should do your work. We are giving you a platform where you reach millions of viewers. You don't do your work by reaching out certain offices where you should supposed to sell them. You want to come on TV and use the opportunity to reach out to people. No, it won't work.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, sir. We're going to go over here to the gentleman who has the microphone.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister and distinguished panelists. My name is Silas Adaramola. And
could you speak up, please?
Yes, my name is Silas Adaramola, and I actually penned down my question. It's quite simple, and this is the question actually: how do you think the ideology of debate can be enhanced to provide voter integrity against the partisan political system? We mostly practice regarding electoral decisions.
Who is it?
Can I come back again? Can I come on?
Who is the question to?
Any of the panelists.
Let His Excellency answer it. He's a politician, so.
Now, what was the word? So you called me a politician. I am one. I had one word this morning, and it was ringing. I'll find it again, because some say they are not politicians, they are technocrats. Then some have accepted that now that they are politicians, but they have put an adjective. But seriously, don't forget that here or everywhere else where there are political parties, there are already positions taken. So I was sharing with Segun and Yemi that in the last election, in the run-in to the election, one candidate from the polls that we did, and polls are just indicative, they have 3% error plus or minus. One candidate was leading by 5 points, and there was 9% undecided voters. So the work that needed to be done was to ensure on the part of the candidate that was trailing that the 9% didn't go to his opposition. And based on some of what we have said here, undecideds may be decided at the debate. They may make up their mind during the debate. They may make up their mind during a rally. They may make up their mind during a town hall. And that's why the doors of advocacy and communication are never closed during a campaign. And it may just be on the last day that you find some earth-shaking evidence that alters the political dynamic. And just as in the run-in to the last election, there were some very unhelpful statements, let me call them that were made by our opponents. And they helped to tilt the political balance. But that's a story for another day. But these interactions clearly have consequences. They have impacts. In fact, people think and say that, oh, somebody has won the debate. They go that far. But the reality is that nobody really wins the debate. It's the people in the audience who interact who are the ultimate winners of every debate. You may not know it, or you may not pay attention to it. You may know it and not pay attention to it. There's a lot of observation, analysis of body language during a debate. How you move your arms, your eyes, how shifty you are, how engaging you are, and so on and so forth. One of the things that tilted the debate in favor of Bill Clinton was that Bush Sr. kept looking at his watch. And the narrative was that, look, he didn't take the American people serious enough. He didn't want to be at that debate. And there's a lot of things around really revealing the candidates, their agenda, their manifesto to you. And that's the place where you can really ask questions, and there are no highfalutin helicopter answers. You can hold their feet to fire there. Where is the money coming from? So if you go back to, somebody has spoken about UPN. UPN as a party was very granular, very, very granular. If they told you they were going to do something about cooperative farming, they knew how many cooperative societies existed, they knew how many farmers existed, they will give you an indicative cost of, and so it's for the opposition to really respond. So, but as far as oppositions go, let me keep my gunpowder dry here. I have news for them.
All right, thank you very much. Please, a round of applause, please, for our panelists. We are going to wrap up very shortly, but again, I think our panelists will just stand up briefly and we'll take pictures, and then we'll go ahead and proceed with the program. Thank you to the Honorable Minister, thank you to Mr. Emissary, and of course, thank you to Mr. Adeni. And we'd like to call on, sir, would you like to join them? Yes. Oh, Mercy, yes, Mercy needs to be. Yes, please, ma'am. Just the panelists, please. The panelists. Can we now have just the panelists, please?
Let's do one without panel, then we add it to it.
Can we have only the panelists, please? Yes, just the panelists. Thank you. Yes. And then we'll have... thank you very much again to our panelists. I think we can all agree that that conversation, we've started stirring the waters. I'm going to ask Yemi to just wait behind because she's going to be doing the closing remarks as we say thank you again and we allow our panelists to exit the stage. Thank you very much. All right, so I'd like to call on Yemi to do the closing remarks.
Well, on behalf of the media, please, can we please be seated so I can do my closing remarks? Mr. Denny, can I please do my closing remarks so we can, because the media, since the Honorable Minister is standing, they will not hear word, so let's him please be seated. Thank you. On behalf of the staff and board of Enough is Enough Nigeria, I'd really like to thank everybody for making our time, about 3 hours of your time, to celebrate our 12th anniversary with us. I hope you've been enriched with the conversation around how we can get more accountability using debates as a tool. Again, a big thank you to the Honorable Minister, former Governor of Lagos State, for encouraging me personally, I would say, on this journey of the importance of debates. To Janet Brown for her wealth of wisdom and experience of sharing it. To Bolanle for her time, and to all our panelists, especially our moderator on double duty, Mr. Segun Adeni. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you, everybody. Have a lovely afternoon.
Here we stand as a people